Sunday on Off the Ball.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Pandora. Celebrate love with a special gift.
Yeah, we're celebrating love all this week, our love of top quality sport. If you want to get involved in any of the conversations that we're having, use the hashtag OTBAM. Follow us at Off the Ball AM. It's the specific Twitter account for this show, and you can always follow us on our main account at Off the Ball. I'm Jerry Gilroy here with you every morning until 9:30. Also here this morning is Eoin Sheahan. Eoin, how are you?
Very well.
You've recovered from your weekend excesses. You were all over the place the weekend. You were in Tyrone. You were in Dublin. That was it.
That's really it. So it was not a very interesting weekend in terms of different geographical points.
I mean, that's more diverse than most people. Most people did not get off their couch. They sat and they watched the election unfold and thought about our lives and our future and where we're going.
Yeah, I would have happily binged the election for the last couple of days, but unfortunately had to come into work yesterday. Didn't actually catch as much of it as I wanted to.
Like, if you were in Kerry on Saturday morning to cast your vote.
I had to work on Saturday. I know.
Couldn't do both.
Couldn't do both.
You are personally responsible for the climate scenarios getting into power.
I'm ashamed, and I am an embarrassment.
Right.
I will hold my hands up on that one.
There you go.
And I couldn't even binge watch it to make it worse.
There you go. Well, I mean, you don't deserve to binge watch it if you haven't voted. If you don't partake, you don't deserve to binge watch.
There's no need to shame me further. I'm already suitably ashamed.
Vote.
I know.
Next time, in 6 months' time.
I know. I have gone home to vote
3 months' time
on every occasion except for this one. So.
Well, look, at least you make good quality content.
No, I'm suitably ashamed now. I'd actually kind of got over that until this moment. You don't know. It
wasn't a very important election at all.
I'd made all right.
Historic elections in the history of the state.
You know, it's. I encouraged my family to vote. Don't worry.
That's good.
Pointing fingers, but don't actually hold yourself to account. Well, I would actually make a great opposition politician.
Or a sports talk show hot taker extraordinaire.
Yeah, exactly. Why
hold yourself to account?
Why isn't
you can hold everybody else to account?
Why isn't Conor Murray's box kicking on the money? Well, that's so easy. That's such an easy thing to do, Conor Murray.
And you've got the answer today. You went out and Andrew Conway took you seriously. That's probably because you didn't know you hadn't voted at that stage.
Well, actually, it's actually on the phone. Andrew Conway spoke to me yesterday, and really interesting interview. Kind of peels back how a player like him has got to the level he's got to, because he's obviously somebody who came into the game with a huge reputation from Blackrock College. Brian O'Driscoll mentioned on, was it ITV's coverage at the weekend, that a schoolboy, Andrew Conway, trained with them in the lead up to the 2009 Heineken Cup final. Maybe 2011, can't remember, but the schoolboy comes in and is running rings around the team. So he's a prodigious talent, and obviously has to go to Munster to get his game time, and national coaches don't rate him to the point where he's going to be a starter in the back three, has to bide his time, and now is his time. Personally, I thought his time was in Japan. I thought 2019 was the year for Andrew Conway. Joe Schmidt obviously didn't agree with that. But now is his time, and clearly I think it's fair to say that he's grasped this opportunity and is flying along. Like himself and Jordan Larmour, the undroppables in that back three. Who would have thought that in 2018 that Jacob Stockdale would perhaps be the most susceptible of the back three to being dropped? Like, I don't think there will be any changes in the back three for the foreseeable future. But Conway seems to have been the star that we all expected him to be in 2020.
Except all the papers today are full of Caelan Doris and Will Addison are back in the 23-man squad potentially. And you're like, who's dropping out there?
Well, it's more to do with the fact that the players are going back to the provinces, obviously, isn't there? Ronan Kelleher is going to go back and play for Leinster this weekend.
And you can understand why he's getting game time, to put a bit of pressure on, perhaps, maybe for him to start. Probably he will start the Italy game. I'm almost certain if, say, he's fully fit, that he'll start that Italy game, and that maybe they rest Herring for that, and then there's a bit of competition because Kelleher looks good. But, like, you wanted Will Addison in. You baited Alan Quinlan into going, I wanted it too, eventually yesterday. But
it's more just to see what happens.
The Munster rugby people want to see Will Addison. Whose position is he getting?
Stockdale's, and then Larmour out to the wing. But I don't want to see this for England. I don't think I don't think that back three deserves to be shuffled for the England game. I would like if the Italy game is up next and play Will Allison at full back. Now, I think that there's been a lot of analysis done to show us why exactly Jordan Larmour is going to be better 15 than on the wing, but it's still something I'd like to see. I would still like. I mean, are Ireland playing a bit wider now? Is the Mike Catt attacking plan going to benefit our wingers perhaps more than our full back? I don't know. Like, time will tell. I think Larmour did pretty well from 15 at the weekend as well. So I would still like to see that. I would like to see Addison, Conway, and Larmour as a back three, almost for novelty value, because it's not a combination we've seen before.
I meant to go back and have a look, but I think Larmour got a knee to the head from one of his teammates as they were celebrating the try. When he was lying on the ground.
Right. His try.
Yeah. So he scores the try, right? Battering his way through 5 or 6 Welsh lads. It's like one of the most ridiculous things you've ever... It's Mighty Mouse versus like Gigantos, and he just drags them over the line. Amazing try, right? So all this type of stuff that you're not supposed to be able to do when you're a little guy, but actually explosion and balance and power in a omnidirectional... Amazing thing for him to score. And then I think... because the Irish replacements are all warming up behind the dead ball line, I think one of them comes sliding in, smacks him in the head, because he got up really slowly. And I was looking back at the replay, and they don't show the replays of the celebrations because obviously they don't. It's like there doesn't seem to be any reason for him to be getting up slowly there. He's actually kind of like obviously been tackled hard, but no one smacked him, no one's battered him. I'm pretty sure that there was like a knee to the temple from somebody.
Right.
So, you know, the over-the-top celebrations just need to be calmed down a bit.
Did we give that try enough credit?
No, I don't think so at all.
Like, as you say, 5 Welshmen, maybe 4 by my counting, but still...
20.
A number of them...
An entire nation.
He could sidestep a mountain, this fella. It's absolutely incredible what he can do with very small amount of space. And, like, he can step off both feet. And, like, he is a wizard, really. And
there was nothing really on. Like...
Except for the fact that he's like 5 yards out from the try line.
Well, he's about 15.
Is he? Okay, I need to watch this.
We can split the difference there, but certainly he's heading into traffic, a lot of traffic.
For sure. A usual Irish rugby player does not score from there.
No.
But it's usually ruck, carry, ruck, try. But Jordan Larmour takes away 2 of those situations, which is fantastic. And I just think that himself and Conway are in just such an unbelievable vein of form. Like, the other back who's been in great form this year as well. Like, actually, sorry, just on that point, this is total proof. Saturday's total proof that this whole idea of form going out the window once the Six Nations comes in, or that coach shouldn't be picking on form, is actually ridiculous, because Conway and Larmour have been 2 outstanding players for their club all year.
For 18 months.
For 18 months, and like I would say Conway and Gary Ringrose were probably the 2 best Irish players in Japan last year. Gary Ringrose had continued that in to the Six Nations as well. Obviously picked up an injury, but he's another player in that backline to come back in who's unbelievably talented. Cooney, I think he's going to be the doors closed on Cooney for the time being. Conor Murray's got that held firmly shut, and fair play to him for doing so. I just want to see the one last opportunity for the in-form player, which is Will Addison, but obviously injuries has kept him out for the first 2 games.
Right, I'm going to tell you what's going on in the world here. We'll talk a bit about the top story this morning. The Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy says there's little chance of him playing both Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty in the same side ever again. With next month's Euro 2020 playoff against Slovakia approaching, Coleman's found himself being rotated in and out of the Everton side, although he did start last weekend. That's as Doherty continues to be a key player for Wolves. McCarthy says playing both players down the right side didn't work away to Gibraltar, and he's unlikely to try it again. McCarthy has also confirmed that Troy Parrott won't be involved as he hasn't gone out on loan. Now, Mick gave a press conference yesterday. The embargo stuff is coming out this morning where he's saying, you know, if we win that first game, I'm confident that we'll have the momentum and we'll win the second game. The first game we've just got to get over. Like, I mean, there's a logic to if we win games, we'll have confidence and we'll carry that confidence into the second game, right?
Except you're playing another winner.
Except in an exact scenario where it's semi-finals and you're both into the final, the other team will have arrived with exactly the same sense of confidence and they'll be at home. So how does that make any logical sense?
I think maybe what he means is that Slovakia are possibly the best team in this side of the Nations League.
Wouldn't you just say that? Well, Slovakia are the best team. If we get over them, we feel pretty confident about whatever we face. And I think the other point was that they're not going to be intimidated by Windsor Park or anywhere. All right, Whitley, fair play. Elsewhere in football, the son of Pelé has said that his father is embarrassed to leave his house because of mobility issues. The 79-year-old three-time World Cup winner with Brazil has suffered declining health and can't walk unaided. Jackie McNamara's family say the former Celtic skipper is receiving the best possible care after he fell ill over the weekend. He collapsed at home on Saturday with a bleed in the brain, according to his friend and former teammate John Hartson. And Leeds United badly need to get their promotion push back on track tonight. They take on Brentford. They've lost their last 2 games and they're away at Brentford. Fresh from beating Leeds, Forest welcomed Charlton to the City Ground. Birmingham could make it 3 wins from 3 with victory away to Barnsley. Scott Hogan scoring goals for them at the moment. Elsewhere, Blackburn entertain Hull, QPR go to Swansea and Wigan host Middlesbrough. Today's meeting at Punchestown is subject to an 8 o'clock course inspection. The ground there was deemed raceable but very heavy yesterday. Should it get the go-ahead, 7-race card gets underway at 1:20. Tomorrow's meeting at Ferryhouse has already fallen victim to the weather. And snooker, Ken Doherty earned a place in round 2 of the Welsh Open last night. The former world champion beat Mark King 4 frames to 1. If you want to get in touch with us this morning, use the hashtag OTBAM. Here's what's coming up for you. Andrew Conway coming your way in about 10 minutes' time. Top 5 stories that we're covering for you this morning at 8:10. Cathal McShane is going to join us to talk to us about his flirtation with Aussie rules. Sports news with Tom Malone. We'll talk about the imminent announcement of the weights for the Grand National and what implication that has for Tiger Woods' bid for 3 in a row. The best sporting partnerships today, we're talking rugby. Are we telling everybody what our best sporting partnerships are today so that we can vote on it? Tommy, are we? Are we telling everybody now? He's like, no, I don't want to. Rhys McKee coming your way, 9:05, Irish football, 9:10. So yesterday I thought we were supposed to have a vote on this so that, everybody could go, yeah, well done, Jerry, you won that one. Because, I did win yesterday.
He's made a strong argument.
You had Bergkamp, that was a bit, you rolled over there pretty quickly.
Well, I didn't really like...
You had Bergkamp and Henry, which was good, but I had Keane and Ferguson.
It's hard to argue against Keane and Ferguson. I hadn't really put the whole manager-player thing together.
I mean, you didn't really think this through, I guess.
I thought to keep things simple on... I think
you're playing checkers, we're playing chess over here.
Perhaps, yeah, exactly. I thought exactly. You kind of changed the rules of the game, to be quite honest.
Wait till you hear what I've done today, Eoin. Wait till you hear what I've done today.
It's rugby partnerships today. What have you done? Are you going to pick the Scrum and Cian Healy or something like that?
No.
Tees and Ronan O'Gara or something?
No.
I don't know.
You're too literal with the need for a partnership. What if I was to tell you today's partnership is about unrequited love? That's what I've gone for. It's Valentine's week. It's not always as straightforward. The path of true love never did run smooth. Well,
yeah, never a truer word spoken, I guess. But okay, who have you gone for?
Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Sexton and Rog.
Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, I get it. Starts out like a, what begins as hate turns into love. They cradled each other in Paris. Each other's careers, metaphorically, obviously. Their wives were there. That's not a bad one. I like that. I've gone for unrequited love.
Which is Martin Johnson and Mary McAleese?
That would have been a good one. Ireland and the semis of the Rugby World Cup.
You're overcomplicating this.
I'm not. It's great. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'll reveal all a little bit later on.
It's a rather grim prospect of romance there, Ireland in the semi-finals of the Rugby World Cup. At least there's still hope. It's not like a closed book on this partnership.
I mean, maybe. It's getting a little bit to the stage of creepy stalker.
I was going to say, they're definitely stalking the World Cup semi-final a little bit.
Throughout all of Valentine's week on OTBM, we're going to be going through the best sporting partnerships. It's all with thanks to Pandora. We'll talk to you a bit more about that a little bit later on. Show her that you know her. Find the perfect gifts this Valentine's Day with Pandora. Time for the papers.
OTB AM.
Right, it's 7:44 this morning. I'm starting with the back page of the Times. And it's Mercedes and £46 million offer to Hamilton. A huge pay rise for Lewis Hamilton from 31 million a year to 46.5 million a year. Basic salary. Not bad. Nice work if you can get it. He's won 5 of his 6 titles with Mercedes, and apparently Ferrari are sniffing around and they want him to sign. Would you go and sign for Ferrari anyway if you're Lewis Hamilton at this point and just take the... Because then you'll have driven for Ferrari and you'll have all that Ferrari marketing behind you.
So what's the difference in cash?
Well, I presume you just get matched.
Yeah. Well, I would have thought... I've seen those links being floated quite a bit.
Mercedes are going to win probably because they've got the best car. I don't know if Ferrari have cars any good at the moment or as good.
Well, you'd obviously have the prestige of Ferrari has Does Mercedes eventually get to that level of prestige, or has everybody just said, well, after new regulations were brought in a few years ago and Mercedes just had the best engineering, that therefore they will never have the same sort of profile that Ferrari has? I don't know. Like, it would be cool to see him in a Ferrari. Like, does Lewis Hamilton think to himself, well, if I can take them back to the top of the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship, does that like make me then the undisputed GOAT of the sport if he manages to win a few more championships himself? I don't know. So either way, Lewis Hamilton is getting severely rich and
Richer.
continuing to get.
Yeah, richer.
$500 million, I think, is his career earnings to date.
It's not bad.
Not
that's
bad
pretty
at all.
good. Just okay, right. That's career earnings. That's not including all of the.
I don't think so.
Right. The back page of the Guardian this morning is every little bit of hate just G's me on. Fallon Sherrock on her newfound fame as she prepares to make more darts history. And pace bowler set for shorter test spells at Silverwood. So I thought about the use of their pace bowler, and maybe there's a bit of analytics going on for that one. The Telegraph this morning, great picture from yesterday's rescheduled Six Nations game. Snow joke farce as England crushed Scotland in blizzard and empty stadium. That's the Women's Six Nations. And fury at football's great mascot rip-off. Top clubs making 500 grand profit from charging up to 700 quid for children's big day out. I didn't know that. That's pretty grim. Here, I'll give you some of these papers.
It is kind of like, I've seen that story do the rounds where you've actually got to pay quite a substantial amount of money for your kid to go be a mascot.
West Ham are making 150 grand a year.
Sorry, so 150 grand a year off mascots alone.
Yeah.
How much per game does it cost?
700. And then there's 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. There's 16 mascots per game.
Oh, come on, God.
So that's like 15 grand a game.
The Irish Times this morning also spoken to Andrew Conway with a fresh mandate. Conway has taken wing to increase his numbers. Jerry Thornley, meanwhile, says Ireland have turned a corner and are looking ahead again. And then finally, Ireland released 13 players back to the provinces, writes John O'Sullivan. So 13 players back to the provinces, retaining a further 23 for a 2-day camp at Cork IT.
Good piece from Jim White, the Telegraph, Jim White in the back page there. Best way for your star to rise, an injury layoff. We know this all too well in Irish sports history. If you're on the fringe of a team and you get injured and you're unavailable for selection, well, all of a sudden you become the greatest player ever to live. In his absence, McTominay has morphed into the next Roy Keane for Manchester United fans, which is probably quite true.
Back page of the Star this morning is a slow victory can speed up qualification. It's Mick McCarthy speaking to the media yesterday. And Delhi in the dock, FA probe whether social media post was racist. Barrett, umpires on the lookout. This is Willie Barrett, who's National Referees Chairman. He says umpires are under instruction to finger the instigator of flare-ups as the fallout from David Clifford's weekend's dismissal continues. And from Cumann and Munster to top of the English Championship is a story carried inside, as well as Rory's on top of the world, back to #1 in golf's world rankings.
The Irish Daily Mail is rallying call. McCarthy urges troops to chase win in Slovakia. And then the picture is Caelan Doris and Addison in line for Twickenham. Caelan Doris and Will Addison are set to feature in Ireland's Six Nations meeting with England at Twickenham in a fortnight's time after both were retained in a 23-man squad for this week's 2-day training camp in Cork. Doris and Addison joined a group of 21 players that all played in Saturday's 24-14 victory over Wales. So,
Beat Slovakia and we will qualify.
simple as that.
McCarthy believes the momentum secured by playoff semi-final will propel Ireland to Euro 2020.
What about the momentum of the other team?
So the first one is the key one with regards to Ireland's potential 2 qualifiers. If we win the first one, I think we'll win the second one. We'll get momentum and we'll win the second one. But we have to beat Slovakia first. And they are no mugs by any stretch. I wonder if there's some sort of way of saying that, look, if we lose to Slovakia, by no means are we the 4th best team in this little corner of qualification. You know, if we just got a better draw, we definitely would have beaten Northern Ireland or
Well,
Bosnia.
if we get the North at home. Do you think that Waterford TD shouting up the Ra would be a good or a bad thing for the team morale of the 6 counties as we face them? Would they use that as a rallying call?
I would suspect that it might feature.
Their fans would. I'm sure that the nature of their players coming from mixed backgrounds probably wouldn't.
No, I'm sure that...
This all feeds into like a nice little interesting dynamic. It's all leading up to, Sinn Féin Taoiseach and her going to watch Ireland versus Northern Ireland in Windsor for a place in the Euros where the matches are in Dublin.
Yeah.
It's all a little bit like, what's going on here? What the hell happened?
The interesting political triangle that I'm looking forward to is England against Germany in Dublin with Sinn Féin Taoiseach looking down in the Aviva stands.
As the rioting fans.
Yeah, this is
the fans won't riot in the stadium anymore because we've got that policing down. They'll riot in town.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the most eagerly anticipated brawls that will hit the streets of Dublin. I think for sure it is this summer. England versus Germany. Forget about the match.
Probably going to be Portugal, though, isn't it? No.
Is
I
it?
don't know. Are they in the same group?
But it's not. It'll probably, like, knowing Ireland's luck of hosting sporting events, it'll probably be like Czech Republic against Israel. Like that time when it was Braga against Porto in the Europa League final.
I know the best thing that we could do is talk about the AVB, who was going to be the next Mourinho.
Yeah, and what was it, Clermont-Toulon?
Claremont.
In the Champions Cup final, or the Heineken Cup final?
I think it was Perpignan.
Was it Perpignan? Who cares? Like, really, who cares? Every time we've hosted a sporting event...
It wasn't even Claremont. It was like Perpignan versus somebody rubbish as well.
Every time we've hosted a big sporting event, it's always been shite. So, like, forget about it. Actually, I've done a complete U-turn on this. It's going to be a crap game, and Ireland probably won't qualify, and this whole Euro 2020 thing will completely underwhelm. Happy 2020, everyone.
The back page of the Herald, Slovakia's crunch tie. Mick, win first game and we will qualify. You gotta like his confidence. I just don't understand it. But anyway, who's ready to step up for the Dubs? There's the strength and depth that Dublin have, which they displayed at the weekend, is a little bit concerning for those of us who are trying to make an argument that they're not going to be as good this year.
Hugely concerning for your argument. I would have thought that there is now a stronger case to be made that Dublin have actually increased the gap, or will increase the gap to the rest in 2020 rather than 2019 being a sign of the gap closing. So, yeah, definitely worrying. Back page of the Mirror is masking for trouble. FA probe now leaves Delhi facing a ban for jokey virus post. Pep and Moyes face early ends to a winter break. Meanwhile, that is with regards to the rescheduling of Manchester City against West Ham. I'm not afraid of Windsor. We can qualify. There's Mick McCarthy, picture there beside Marek Hamšík. I've changed my mind. Ancelotti is the right man for Everton, writes Stan Collymore. And alarm Bielsa ringing again. Is struggling Leeds United boss a master or a myth?
The Examiner this morning, official overload case for second GAA referee more compelling than ever. That's what they're leading with, and they're also saying Dubs are already chipping away at our hopes and dreams, from Colin Sheridan column.
The Sun goes with we'll find a way. Away being one word. Mick says go be kings of the road. Pep's goal lady. Juve plan for summer raid. So this is an interesting story by Martin Lipton this morning. Juventus will give Pep Guardiola whatever it takes to persuade the Manchester City manager to join them this summer. They're desperate to install Guardiola as their boss, despite only appointing Maurizio Sarri to the post last year. Delhi faces video ban and City break is broken. That's City versus West Ham rescheduling.
There you go. The Racing Post this morning, finally from me for now, is Willie Mullins. He reminds me of Vincent O'Brien. I couldn't pay him a bigger compliment than that. It's a two-page Richard Forrestal profile of Willie Mullins. His surname is Bang Fresh as Nichols targets big Ascot prize, and Crunch Time for Tiger is their lead story. We'll find out a little bit later on today exactly what weight Tiger Rowe will go off at when he does go to post, as we assume he will, trying to do the three-peat in the Grand National. Do we have an Irish news this morning? We do. Windsor doesn't worry Mick as focus turns to Slovakia tie. A picture of James McLean and Mick McCarthy on the back page of the Irish news this morning. It will be interesting to see exactly what sort of reception James McLean gets at Windsor Park.
Yeah. What is the thought process behind Mick McCarthy's comment? Is there a thought process behind what he's saying yesterday? Just kind of like seeing the Irish news angle on that. That is the obvious thing to say, that Mick McCarthy is dismissing the challenge of Northern Ireland and Bosnia. Well, but are we reading too much into the comments? Is it a throwaway line? I'm not sure.
Well, we can probably get some of the audio for you a little bit later on, but I don't think that there's too much. This isn't mind games. Yeah. There's no Northern Ireland / Bosnia. We don't fear going to wherever it is that you're going to take us. I mean, both places could have venues that would be perceived to be difficult for us to go to if there was like a raucous environment in both. But like, really, at this stage, there's a lot on the line. It's qualification for a home Euros. There's going to be pressure on whatever happens if we make it that far. Obviously, you wouldn't be looking past Slovakia there now. You've got to take each game as it comes.
Very, very good side, Slovakia. No great mugs, I think, is that the official...
No easy games in international
FA
football
line.
these days, especially away from home when you're Ireland.
It's despite the rapidly declining standards of international football.
7:55 this morning. Here's a quick look at the homepage of offtheball.com for you before we get into Andrew Conway. Andrew Conway's work ethic shows traces of Springbok influence. Former Celtic defender Jackie McNamara is in hospital. Kieran Donaghy, umpire's role needs to be reviewed by the GAA. A timely call from Kieran Donaghy after stuff at the weekend. And Keith Wood saying that Conor Murray had his best game in 12 months. Also, the news coming through yesterday that LeBron James is going to be part of the US Olympic basketball team finalists. And once he gets that far, you've got to assume he's going to be in it because he wants to be. And there's like an element of paying tribute to Kobe and all this.
Yeah, I would be very, very fearful for any opponent of the USA basketball team this summer because not only do they have this hunger and thirst to win gold every time they go there, but also they'll be doing it for Kobe this summer. So, yeah, it's going to be a coast home to gold medal, I'd imagine.
So yesterday afternoon, Eoin caught up with Irish and Munster rugby star Andrew Conway as Pinergy, the smart energy provider, announced that all customers can charge their electric vehicles for free on Fridays throughout 2020.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
OK, so Pinergy, the smart energy provider, and Munster rugby player Andrew Conway are kicking off 2020 by announcing that all Pinergy customers can charge their electric vehicles for free on Fridays throughout the year so that they can start their weekends off with a full charge, courtesy of Pinergy. Munster Rugby's home stadiums, Foreman Park and indeed Irish Independent Park, are fully powered by renewable energy sources supplied by Pinergy, which is its official energy partner. Andrew Conway, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. Let's get straight into it. The Wales game, it wasn't bad, was it?
No, yeah, it was an enjoyable day. It was a tough match, and Wales are one of the top teams in the world. So we are very aware of what was in front of us after having a tough game the weekend before against a good Scottish team. So yeah, listen, it was a good result. Obviously, they scored a try in the last play of the game, which changed the look of the scoreline, I suppose, a bit. But it was an enjoyable day, I must say.
Yeah, that word enjoyable has been used by a couple of people in the aftermath of it. Your captain, Johnny Sexton, said it in the press conference immediately after the game, and it's something that I think was evident. People seem to be enjoying their rugby a little bit more after the last couple of months for Irish rugby. Yeah,
I think so. Obviously, the World Cup didn't go as anyone planned for it to go, and these things happen. But the only thing you can do is try and take some learnings, move on, and get back on the horse. And I actually thought that the Scottish game was a really tough test match that wasn't appreciated how tough a game that was, and it was almost the chat after was that we hadn't moved on or anything, but not enough credit was given to a good Scottish team that came over and made life very difficult for us. So we were happy with that win, as much as there's always areas to improve, and then there's a great opportunity against Wales, against, as I said, a brilliant Welsh side to have another crack at them, and it was at home for the second week in a row, which was great to play in front of our home crowd again, and we upped our performance, which we needed to, and had a good win, obviously.
Yeah, like that Scotland result now, the form from that game has been franked because after their performance against England really at the weekend as well. So privately, are you feeling that the performance level against Wales was around the same level, or have you ratcheted it up a notch within the space of 1 week?
Yeah, no, it definitely went up. The performance was definitely better against Wales. We started really well. We had a great first half, obviously, and then we were under the pump a bit in the second half, and a few big moments with a big turnover in a scrum. Obviously, Hadley Parks knocked the ball on over the line, which is ideal for us. But yeah, we weren't panicking at all after the Scottish match. We knew how tough a game that was. We knew what level of intent they brought, and made it very tough for us to dig in. And we had some amazing defensive sets in that game, which we needed to have, and we need to keep them out. And then we obviously turned up as a probably more fluent attacking unit within the Welsh game, especially in that first half. Things were flowing pretty nicely at times, and obviously there's a lot more to go, but it was definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, you personally obviously had a very good day at the office. You were in the mix for the man of the match conversation in the aftermath of the game. On a personal level, is there any particular thing that you can pick out that has allowed your game to get to this level at the moment? Because I think it has been a constant build over the last couple of seasons to where you're now one of the standout players at test level.
Yeah, I think that you probably hit the nail on the head there. It's just been a building process for the last, especially 4 years probably, where I stripped back a lot of my approach to the game and put a lot of thought into how I can become the absolute best player I can be, and took a bit of time and a bit of work, and obviously it's going to be a constant thing going forward. It's about never settling and always looking to evolve as a player, and these things take time, and I've been chipping away, and like you said, I've been I think it was my 20th cap there in the weekend, so I've been chipping away for a while now, and feeling like I've been adding to my game kind of on a consistent basis, just through consistency of preparation, really have been pretty strict with myself on all the bits and pieces that go into a daily life of a rugby player, let's say, with the obvious things that are there for me with my pitch sessions, but the extras after. And it's easy to do that for a while and then almost think, all right, that's grand, I've gotten a bit better at that, and leave it. The tough thing is to just stay with it and continue to try and grow and continue to reflect back and see where you can grow and look for opportunities, because if you keep looking for them, you're going to keep finding them. And that seems to have worked a bit over the last while, and something that I've been pretty consistent with. And you eventually see the differences within training, and then you take that into matches. And obviously it's never going to be perfect, you're never going to play the perfect game, but you want to always strive to be adding strings to your bow every week and every day, and that's probably something that I've made a conscious effort of over the last few years.
When you mention those extras that you're doing, perhaps after training and outside of training, what sort of things do you mean there?
Just it depends. Each week is maybe a small bit different. High ball stuff is the obvious one. As a back three player, it's usually important to be dominant in the air, and I wasn't blessed with the tallest frame of a man, so I've had to work pretty hard on that to get my time enough with the ball right, to get my ability to kind of catch in different ways. I suppose the best way to try and describe it, with your hands in different positions based on certain things around kick chase or kick receipt, and then kicking is obviously one of them that you need to be accurate at. And the way we're going to be trying to play is that it's a kind of shared responsibility of what it's not just looking for the 9s and 10s to be kicking the ball and the wingers to chase. If there's space from a running perspective, that the ball gets moved, and then that changes their defensive line and the space then in behind, because we've pulled the 15 up. I need to have the ability to execute an accurate kick, select the kick first, and then the ability to execute the skill of it. So there's a lot that goes into it, I suppose, and it's just trying to be consistent with it every week, and bringing lads along and trying to link up with lads who are really good in specific areas and learn from them, and kind of all kind of bring each other along.
That's very interesting, because I think if anybody did an analysis of your performance on Saturday, they might have picked out your performance under the high ball, your kicking as two of the standout areas. Just on that high ball, is there any particular drills you were doing? Is there any particular people you worked with to get to this level where you say you perhaps aren't blessed with, say, Jacob Stockdale's height, for example, going up in the air, but you've obviously been able to do something? What is that thing that's helped you to get to that level?
It's definitely not one thing. It's over a few years. I think Felix Jones was a big part of it. He was really good aerial fullback, and we would have done a lot of work back when he was playing, and then back to whenever he was coaching me, we would have worked hard on that side of the game. And it's just working with the lads who you're playing with. So after training on a Monday or Tuesday, or even a lot of the time in the captain's room, we do a bit of it. Linking up with guys who are in the same position as me, and then even just say on kick chase, linking up with the 9s, and I had a great little few minutes with Luke McGrath there on Friday in the Aviva before or after the captain's run, and we were just talking about different kick selections, what I'm looking for as a winger going after the ball, where in and around I want the kick to go. So all these little small interactions and conversations are involved in the bigger picture of a good kick, then a good chase, and then a good result for the team.
It sounds like you study this very closely, Andrew. You possibly played a game on instinct, but certainly from what I'm hearing here, you study quite a lot of what you're doing and you analyse as much as possible in terms of predicting how you can get the better outcome from your training.
Yeah, I think, as high balls, I really enjoy kick chase, I suppose. It's not the most glamorous thing to look at in the world, but it's something that is a controllable, in my opinion. I know how fast it's ball kicked up in the air from point A to point B, and it doesn't land at point B until 3 seconds, and I can run that 25 yards within that 3 seconds. Well, obviously there's other stuff that plays a part in it with escorting and different teams, but the kick is good enough. Usually you'll be able to beat those forwards who are trying to escort you back and be able to get in the contest. So there's one element of the controllable where it's effort based, and getting out of the blocks early is a huge part of it, and not assuming that a kick is going to be too long or too short. It's getting out of the blocks early for the first 10 yards, trying to beat that original escort, and then once you're in a bit of free space, you then recalibrate yourself a bit and go, right, the ball's going to be landing there, while also still going at a fairly good clip. And then the next part is just probably a timing and a skill-based execution into competing effectively. And obviously there's other ways to do it. You can go up and try and win a clean. You can go up with the tap back if you're not in a strong position. But that's all it's all done through a training process. And then once you're in the game, you're not thinking of it. You're just doing what is your instinct in the game. And obviously you want to try and get that as right as many times as possible.
You might then be the best person to tell us how well Conor Murray played at the weekend then, because it seems that you've got a very, very in-depth idea of the perfect kick. Where is his box kicking game at the moment, and what's it like to chase it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Connor's got a rare talent in that he can probably get nearly a second longer than most other players with a kick, which makes a big difference for a chaser to go after it, because it's the potential to go longer. So the longer it goes, essentially, and if I can get to where it's going to drop by the time it's dropping, the more chance that I'll have of a one-on-one, because I'm able to. It's going to be kind of forwards who are trying to beat me back to that space, and I, as a winger, I should be beating them back in a 25 kind of to 30 metre race. So his kicking is probably, in my opinion, the best box kick in the world, and it's not always going to be perfect by any stretch, and I'd be giving them stick sometimes for wanting it to be a certain percentage of his max output and all this kind of weird stuff that I'd be getting onto him about, just wrecking his head. But more often than not, just leave him do his thing. Just tell him to give it a bit of length and get me into the contest. And if he can put it in and around a certain area, and I'm 100% committed to the chase, then we've got a chance of getting the ball back.
Right, so that's a dialogue then between scrum half and his backs. This is not just Conor Murray thinking to himself, right, time to box kick. This is everybody needing to be as one when it comes to this box kicking tactic.
100%, yeah. It's not the way the game is now. There's so many different variables to every part of play. It's how the ruck is set. It's the speed of the ball, given a run option on the open side. So they can't drop four lads back. They have to respect the run. And then if we do all those things right, then it's obviously next thing up is a kick, and that's down to Conor's execution of it. And then you move on to the winger's chase. And so it's not just a Conor Murray decides to box kick it. It's obviously a bit of part of the game plan. It's seeing space. If we see someone back there that we want to target, we'll put it up on them. And there's a definite dialogue that goes into it all.
I wanted to ask you about Mike Catt's attacking system. Is it a situation where you're hugging the touchlines a bit more, or is that just a very easy analysis based on you scoring a try at the weekend?
No, I'd say that's probably a bit too simplistic. That was my job is to be on the wing to receive those balls at those times that the lads do a good enough job on the inside to create a bit of space from the outside. I obviously need to be scoring those tries that whenever the space is created for you. But the level of detail that goes into getting that is probably the one you want to talk about. The different carries that get you over a gain line, the detail of a breakdown, of making a ruck long, or getting a body off the ball quick so we have quick ball, then the pass quality, the depth from Jordan to allow himself to have enough time to move it and not be hit man and ball, and then the pass accuracy that I don't have to be checked too much and I can get in the corner. So there's so many different pieces to the jigsaw that create an overlap like that, and I'm obviously as a 14, you're in that position. You're there to finish those tries.
Yeah, like between Cat's system and between Stephen Larkham's system, I'd imagine you're picking up quite a bit this year. That if you're a Munster stroke Ireland player at the moment, if you've got your wits about you and can be a sponge, there is a great wealth of knowledge to be learnt there as a winger, especially.
100%. Yeah, you just exactly like you're saying. You need to be a sponge. You need to be inquisitive, ask questions, look to continue to grow, look to get different opinions and talk and like even Steve sometimes in Munster, it's funny, he's one of the first coaches that will say something in a meeting and then about a minute later will actually go back and say, sorry lads, I was actually wrong there, that was I actually shouldn't have said that, and will re-explain his point. So he's because no coaches are perfect there. We're all trying to grow, and we can help them in a way, and obviously they can help us massively. So just learning from the two lads is massive, and being open for different ideas and having different chats and looking to reflect on looking at what happened in the game, what could we have done differently, what did we do well, how can we link up better. There's endless possibilities, I suppose, with coaches of that quality.
We've spoken about some of the attributes that you've added to your game that are tangible. Some of the intangible things then I'd imagine have been just as important for you. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's some disappointment about not getting a run out against New Zealand in the Rugby World Cup, but in general I think you've had to bide your time to get a good run in the team for Ireland. Has there been a lot of psychological work that's gone in there to, I guess, increase your level of patience and to realise that if you stick through the process you will eventually make that break?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. You stick to the process and you work as hard as you can, you work as smart as you can, you continue to try and add different skills along the way, and there's going to be disappointments along the way, as there is with everything, whether it's a loss, whether it's not getting into a team, whether it's a poor performance. You try and obviously minimise them to the best of your ability, but that's just life, and you roll with the punches. And I think a great one to fall back on is that if your processes are right, and they're not always going to be right again, but if you're continually getting things right within your process, the outcome is almost secondary, because it's so easy to live with yourself after maximising your effort, after putting a lot of thought into your processes, sure, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch, and doing things the right way and not the easy way. And then at the end of the day, we're playing a game where there's 15 lads trying to beat us, and there's 15 of us trying to beat another team, and things are going to fall as they may. But if you've got your preparation right, and if you've got your kind of individual mindset as good as it could be, then at the end of the day you can be pretty comfortable with yourself.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
The Six Nations Championship has arrived, and there's only one place to hear the biggest names in rugby every day of the week.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
Brian O'Driscoll.
The evolution of Ireland probably wasn't to the same degree over that period of time.
Ronan O'Gara.
What is a team player is backing your game plan, but also backing your instinct.
Keith Wood.
We just turf that bloody thing in the bin and never speak of it again.
Alan Quinlan.
I'm kind of sick of listening to him saying, it's because they're the biggest playing pool in the world.
The best analysis from the legends of the game.
OTB Sports Radio.
We'll also have reporters at every match across the men's and women's Six Nations, post-match reaction, and Eoin Sheahan will be meeting the people.
I fully believe that the Irish team lost because they want to go on the sesh in Japan. Sesh! All the way!
That's the Six Nations Championship on OTB Sports Radio.
Come the day and come the hour. The time has come to get behind your team. Be part of all the Six Nations at D2, the home of sports. Watch all the games with action as epic as our 20-foot monster screen. Soak up the atmosphere with tempting matchday specials. Then keep the buzz going with music through the night. So why not give it your all? Answering Ireland's call. For reservations, email info@d2.ie. D2, the home of sports.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Pandora. Show her that you know her.
Neil Keegan's been in touch to say Conway's been a savage for years. Magic in all jerseys. It's great to see him it's great to see the hard work paying off in green. And Macker says, glad Conway is finally starting regularly. Always done well when given the chance. Top 5 stories we're covering for you this morning here at 14 minutes past 8 on OTB AM. Mick McCarthy has been out doing some press. The announcement of a new sponsorship deal, which is always good news for the FAI at the moment. They need every penny they can get. Andrew Conway, we've spoken about just there. Rory Mcilroy is obviously the newly minted world number 1. He's back on top of the world golf rankings. We'll talk about that in 1 second. Unai Emery has been out blabbing, giving out about the Arsenal players, and GA officialdom in the spotlight after the weekend. Timekeeping, there's a suggestion in the Examiner this morning that the calls for a second referee have never been more appropriate, and now is the time to act on that. What are we going to start with here, Eoin?
We can start with whatever you want. Like, we may as well mention Rory Mcilroy as a starting point here, because it was obviously something that came out kind of over the last couple of days. We knew before last weekend that he was going to shoot back up to number 1 in the world rankings. It's been a while now. It's not something that he will obviously look at and say to himself, well, job done, this is great, fantastic start to the year, because I think he's probably the first person to admit that he will go into every calendar year thinking, I need to add another major to my haul. A green jacket wouldn't be bad, but I think at this point it's probably another major. Like, I don't know, does he see himself in a rush when it comes to the big tournaments? Because outside of them, he's obviously been winning tournaments and he's been brilliant. And like, I think he'll probably point to his own finishing, or his finishes at some of the majors in recent years and say, well, actually, I've done all right. Like, there's been a few top 10 finishes here and there. And I think even in the Sindo at the weekend, he was kind of rubbishing this idea of him making a Sunday charge when it doesn't matter. Like, he just does not believe in that being a thing whatsoever. He thinks
the backdoor top 10s.
Like, yeah, everybody has to play 72 holes, and it doesn't matter when you put that performance in. I deserve to be credited with those top 10 finishes, rather than saying he came from whatever 35th on the Saturday to 9th on the Sunday. So I don't know. I think that, like, obviously the last couple of weeks have given us a bit of an insight into Rory and his psychology, and it almost seems that he's in as strong a position as he's ever been in mentally. People might say that perhaps his game would have been something that stood out from the crowd a bit more a few years ago, that there's a younger generation of American golfers who are certainly bashing the ball down the middle of the fairways, and it's just a very, very crowded market at the moment. So I think he will. I think he's in with a fantastic shot at winning a major this year. But yeah, back to number 1 over the course of the weekend. And yeah, good. Like, I mean, there's Brian Keown, the newspaper, this morning says he's got quotes from McIlroy in 2013. I don't care if I miss 10 cuts in a row if I win a major a year. Of course, it's not a good thing for your confidence if you're missing 10 cuts in a row, but when people look back on a career, they don't remember the low points. So obviously he went on and won 2 majors then the following year, and it's kind of been a bit of a low ebb since then on the major front.
We're 8 weeks away from the Masters. Doesn't feel like it, does it?
No.
Like, that's going to hurtle really quickly. We're kind of 8 weeks away from our swimming for a mile as well. How's that going for you?
Dear God. Masters weekend, is it?
Well, we haven't picked a date yet, but we could pick it. We could pick it the Monday after the Masters, you know, to celebrate Rory's green jacket.
To celebrate Rory's green jacket, what, we're going to absolutely
swim a mile,
drown.
We'll give you all the details about how you can get involved in the swim a mile. I'll tell you all about that tomorrow. But sorry, just go back to McIlroy, right? There's a lot of us paying attention to everything he does now, because this battle of him versus the Masters is amazing. It is an amazing thing that he's managed somehow to back himself into. I've got everything sorted now. I just need to just solve this one issue. It's only a small thing. I'm going to get over it. I'm not that into worrying about it. When we can see this kind of black cloud following him around just in the build-up to the Masters. And every question is like, how are you going to do the Masters, Rory? How are you going to do the Masters? What about the Masters, Rory? What about that green? Remember that time you choked in the Masters? Are you going to choke every year? I think it was Conor McKeown in the pay-per-view at the weekend made the point that, you know, it's possible, or maybe it was Kieran Cunningham. You can choke on the first day. You don't have to wait until the 10th or 11th on the Sunday. Like what happened he denies it obviously, but what happened in Portrush last year was he choked on the first day, choked on the first tee and never recovered. And then the surge on the Saturday was great. It was amazing TV. Like it was really on the Friday to try and get into Saturday. But so frequently in recent years, it's not that he's been in contention and choked. It's like just hasn't been able to get into contention.
Portrush different though. Home crowd. He said it in the first part of the interview that like he kind of steps out of the car and is walking through the course and he's like, oh my God, this is actually a lot bigger than I thought. Which almost seems mad because we were speaking about Rory Mcilroy so much in the build-up to it, saying this is his home open. And it seems that even he hadn't computed just how large this thing would be for him personally. And I definitely think, he says he didn't, but I think even from his quotes, it suggests that it really got to him in the first tee. So, like, are you suggesting that perhaps you're better off getting that out of the way?
The choke early so you can have a chance of recovery? I don't know. I'm not. I just think that it's like the fragility of the psychology involved for these golfers and the narrow line between winning by 10 strokes and missing the cut is like entirely between the 2 years for these guys. And Brad Faxon is getting a lot of credit from Paul McGinley in the piece today in the Telegraph, which is carried also in the Irish Independent. McGinley says Faxon is the thing that is the person who's freed him, who has unburdened him. So maybe we see, as world number one, he comes out and has one of those dominant years where this is actually the peak of Rory Mcilroy, and there's a second peak away from the first peak where things were unconscious. Now it's a conscious, and this is the phase 2, brighter, wiser, older.
Are you saying he might get to second peak? Because I would have thought that you've gone back to world number one.
Like, that is a peak.
Yeah, that is a peak. Of course it is.
It is. Look, I think that, like, the bit about I missed 10 cuts, but what about winning 20 million and not winning a major? How do you feel about that year? Yeah, it was a successful year. That was a successful year. I nailed almost everything. Just one tournament. If one of those other 4 tournaments had gone my way, it would have been the greatest year of any Irish sports person ever.
How do you think Rory Mcilroy would feel having overtaken Brooks Koepka into world number one to see Brooks Koepka pull on a green jacket this year?
Pissed off. Very pissed off. But, like, look, I mean, here's the thing. He's not going to win every green jacket for the next 10 years.
Koepka or Rory?
Both of them. Both of them. We'll come back to that, obviously. 8 weeks. The ticker is counting down to Eoin swimming a mile and to the green jacket.
I'm not going to swim a mile.
You are. It's fine. We'll talk about it. GAA officials next.
Yeah, we'll hear from Kieran Donaghy. He's speaking on the show last night, talking about the new Battle of Omagh is what I want to call it, the one-man battle with the officials. Here's what Donaghy had to say last night.
Their job shouldn't be to look at the ball and how great of a game it is and what's going on. Their job should be looking at, what's going on in front of them. Is there a back trying to antagonise a forward? Is there a forward trying to antagonise a back? Is there pulling and dragging going on? I often look, and I'm sure a lot of inside forwards will tell you this, that you get pulled and dragged around the place for 60 minutes and eventually the umpire tells the ref and the ref comes in and books your man. And I always had a kind of a feeling that, look, it's too late now,
Yeah.
I needed that to happen in the first 5 minutes. But, maybe that their roles are, more defined, that they have clear understanding of what they're meant to do. And look, and this goes... I made this point on Shot Clock last year, Joe, on OTB AM. I said that the Aussie rules, we speak about Aussie rules so much and we take their most complicated rule and we make it even more complicated. And some of the simplest stuff they have, we turn away from. But they've got one young official, an up-and-coming maybe referee, and they cover the entire width of the goal scoring range, which is like a GA post, which is 6 points, and then the further behind range, which is about, I think, 18 metres wide. They have one person that runs over and back and gets in the right angles. So if the ball's coming down the right-hand side of the pitch, they get over to the left-hand side of it to get a clear view if it goes over or not. And they have one person that does all that. And... maybe it is time to get up-and-coming referees, and also that the up-and-coming referees learn off of the main man in the middle.
Yeah, look, I think that's a really common sense, simple idea that would be perfect. Even the positioning of the umpires doesn't make sense. Like having somebody stand under a post. If you're standing here and somebody's coming straight at you, and they're blasting the ball, you've got to flick your head at the speed of. Is it 80 miles an hour? Is it 70 miles an hour? Somebody's like... And then go, what side of the post was that? Mm-hmm. What? Very hard to do. You
could definitely just have one that just stands right behind the goal, and then that's it.
Now, you wouldn't get a great view of the match, is the thing.
Yeah, true. You'd like bring an iPad or something and have it on delay.
Wouldn't that be, the perfect idea? Is it's a closed-circuit stream that the officials have access to that nobody else has access to.
Well, that would make an awful lot of sense, kind of like they do in the NBA, just having numerous officials around the court and then also having the ability to consult the screen when it really matters late on. But I do think that the whole idea of there's two of them in it is a very murky area still, and there are less clear-cut examples than the one we saw at the weekend.
I was pretty clear-cut, but it's going to happen, it's going to continue to happen. I do think that, like, we should have a standing rules committee who can make changes at any point, irrespective of whether or not it's gone to Congress, and that group can change rules if they need to in the middle of a season, or can announce how a specific rule is going to be refereed over the course of the rest of the season. We're now going to clamp down on the travelling and all that kind of stuff, specifically over the next 6 weeks to try and eradicate it for this year's championship. That would then become a thing. We would all know exactly, and there would be a communication, and they would have spoken to the referees and briefed the referees. I think that makes a lot of sense. 24 minutes past 8 this morning. I'm delighted to say we have Tyrone full forward Cathal McShane with us. Cathal, good morning to you. How you doing?
Morning. How's things?
Yeah, good. You've had an exciting couple of months. Can you talk to us, maybe bring us back to the very first time when it got onto your radar that heading down to Australia was a possibility? What was that process like? What happened?
I think obviously, Tyrone season ended and then we went back to our club. We're playing our club and, our own rows and did actually well this year. We got the semi-final championship and then we had an extended run then in the league as well. We made the playoffs. The season was not quite long, but I think after the club scene ended in around November time, I think it was, maybe a wee bit before, the guys were in touch from across the water. I think it was scouts that got in touch first. They say that there's an interest, and then they said that the club would be coming to get in touch with you. So it just sort of was a process to get it. It wasn't something that I was expecting, but it came, and we dealt with it going forward then.
Yeah, and was that something that when you say you didn't expect it, it's nice to be wanted, right? It's like, oh right, okay, I'm definitely going to have a look at this and see what the crack is. Like, what did they want? What when they get in touch with you, they're like, look, just come down and have a look, or do they want you to do physical tests? Do they want do they want to like do a battery to see exactly what your explosiveness is, what your stamina is, all that kind of stuff? Did they put you through a combine? How did that work?
No, there was no mention of a combine. I think what they were happy that they seen what they wanted in terms of last year. There was talk, obviously, they were looking for an experienced forward. So, I think they thought that I fitted the bill there. But again, in terms of there was no mention, no tests, nothing like that. It was just basically they were interested, and they got in touch, and it went from there really. So they organised them for me to come over and stuff like that. So that's what happened.
And what was the trip like when you were over? Like, was there ball in hand stuff? Were they checking your kicking technique with the Aussie rules ball, or at that stage was it kind of like, look, do you want to come or not?
I think I was out for 2 weeks, so I think it was obviously get out there and get a feel for the situation, see how I feel in that type of environment. Obviously, going out there, you're using a different ball, so that's obviously they're going to be working on that, trying to get you kicking on it and things like that. But it did at the start. You could see maybe where I wasn't doing it right, and then as the days progressed, you could see you're amending the way you're holding the ball and the way you're positioning the ball and the way you're dropping it down. And when you do that, then you start to see success in terms of an improvement. I did feel that I could see myself improving when I was out there, and I did really well.
So you were actually at training. It was you were joining in training sessions and kicking goals, basically.
Yeah, there's obviously limits. Obviously what you can't join in full on, because obviously the AFL have limits there in terms of what you can do. But no, it was 80% of 90% of, you could say, that I was involved in all the drills and different things. So it was just getting your game awareness in it. And to be honest, it was something that it was challenging, but I felt that I did really well. Obviously, then it came down then that how to make the decision recently there. So then obviously I went with that. But no, I had a good experience out there and did really well. Yeah.
Could you explain that thought process then for the decision making?
I think obviously you're out in Australia, and you're just obviously looking at the obviously the professional environment and things like that, and it did appeal to me in terms of I did really enjoy when I was out there, my time out there. But when I came home, I had to weigh everything up, and obviously at the minute I felt, from last year, I felt that I was in a good position in my Gaelic game here at home. So obviously you're surrounded by good people back here. You have your family, you have the great Tyrone supporters, you have good people that's here to help you. Maybe when you go out there, you wouldn't have your family for a start, you know what I mean, and things like that out there. So there's just small things that you have to weigh up, and you know, obviously, like everything in life, there's deadlines for decisions, and you know, at that fast approach, and I had to go with what I thought was best for my future going forward, and that's here in Ireland. So that was my decision.
When you were making the journey down, Cathal, was anybody at home chatting to you? Was Mickey Hart chatting to you, kind of telling you about the reasons why you should potentially stay and play for Tyrone?
Oh, listen, everybody's very supportive in terms of, you know, what I was going to do. I think obviously my family were saying, here, listen, Cathal, it's up to you, and you're old enough, mature enough now to go and do what you want to do and things like that. Again, it was a good experience, but no, I don't. Like Mickey wasn't saying, no, here, you better stay here, whatever. He knew, he was aware that I was going out. But again, that, you know, I had made well clear that I would have to come home and make a decision. So I was just going to sort of get the experience, and obviously if it went really well, and I felt this was for me, then it could be a possibility. But you know, as I say, the Adelaide Crows are they're very, very respected bunch of guys out there, and they treated me well when I was out there, and you know, I did have a good experience. But again, just coming home, obviously you have to sort of, I think there's a deadline in place, so you had to try and, you know, weigh up everything and make your decision before that time passed, obviously, and that's what I did.
How close did you actually come to signing for an AFL team? Was it an extremely tough decision?
It was, in terms of obviously the professional environment's obviously an appealing factor. You know, you go out there and you start training at 9 in the morning. You're finished up around 1 or 2. Do you know what I mean? And then the rest of the day is yourself. So it was an appealing factor in terms of, you know, just the lifestyle, all that sort of things. And you know, I've heard a lot of guys, spoke to a lot of Irish guys that was out there, and you know, they all said the same thing. But again, it did come close in terms of, obviously it came down to the last day where I had to decide. I think you know, I'm really, really happy with my decision. I'm happy here to stay in Ireland, stay in Tyrone, and you know, represent the Red Hands, because that's obviously what I dreamt as a child, if you get me. Growing up and, you know, pulling on the white and red jersey. So I'm so happy with my decision, and you know, I'm really looking forward now to the future ahead.
Did you speak with Conor McKenna? Would he have been? He's a bit younger than you, I think. Is he? Me and Conor was in the same Tyrone minor team together. So we got beaten the Ireland final against Mayo back in 2013, I think it was. So no, yeah, I spoke to Conor. Conor be a good friend, so I spoke with Conor, and you know, obviously he gave me his side of things, and obviously he's been very, very successful. He's been a guy that's been out there and took to the game and done really, really well for himself. So you know, that's obviously, I spoke to Conor, like I spoke to a few other guys as well. So you know, it's just I was just trying to figure out, you know, get as much information as possible, and you know, get a feel for what maybe was ahead for myself, and then you know, obviously try and take advice from them guys, because they were there and did it, and you know, that's what I done. And you know, as I say, I weighed up all my options, and you know, that's when I came to my final decision. Yeah, and look, I think the other thing that that is important here is that, like, the GAA, and it's a dream to play for Tyrone and to represent Tyrone, and hopefully at some point in your Tyrone career to win an All-Ireland. But it is something you're supposed to be doing in your spare time. You've got a career and the rest of your life to consider in Ireland as well. And, like, you know, especially in your early 20s, you're kind of making decisions that are going to have repercussions for you for the next 5 years or maybe the next 10 years. And if things go well, who knows, maybe the next 20, 25 years you end up. So this week there was an announcement that you've got a new job as well. Was that also part of this whole kind of decision-making process? Is like, well, if I stay, what is Cathal McShane? What is my career going to be? Who am I going to be outside of the world of my footballing identity? Yeah, well, no, that's it. Obviously, you know, when you're thinking obviously in GAA and your GAA career, it will come to an end. So obviously you have to start planning for what you're going to be doing after that. And, you know, it's obviously, I have been given a good opportunity here to have a good career. So, you know, that's why I was thinking, obviously you go out to the AFL and you could be successful, and you could stay there for 10 years, or you could stay there for 8 or 9 years, whatever it is, and, you know, that would be seen as a successful spell. But if you did go out for 2 years and it didn't work out for yourself, then you'd have to come back. And, you know, I just felt that I was giving up too much in terms of where I was in my game at the minute. I was playing really well, obviously coming off my All-Star last year. Tyrone got the Ireland semi-final, a few kicks the ball away from being in a second final in a row. So there's lots of positives there, and I feel that, you know, Tyrone's in a good place, and that, you know, myself, you know, going really well. So
Obviously, there was an opportunity there for a career as well outside of football back home, and that was a big factor in me deciding, that's definitely the right choice to stay at home. So I can use that now and try and progress through as well. And so you're not only looking for success on the pitch, you're looking for success off the pitch as well. So that gives me a good platform to go and do that.
Yeah, like that's obviously a huge factor as well. Am I right in saying you're qualified as a teacher, Cathal?
Yeah. Without the teacher of Rhys McKee, that was 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't go straight into it, but so it's basically there's 2 degrees in St Mary's. So there's the BA and the BA. So I did the BA. So now I'm qualified there now this last couple of years. So I didn't go straight into teaching, but it's definitely it's something that obviously, well, I have a good career chance now, but if I didn't have that, it was something that I may have been thinking of falling back on, if you get me.
Yeah, totally. It makes sense to have that in the back pocket whenever you need it.
Yeah.
You talk to us about your game and going well, because some of the pictures that we had the other day, you had a number 8 on your back, and you went from being a good midfielder to a great full forward. What was that transition? How did that happen?
I think, obviously, the full forward position was always there in terms of that's where I played with my club all the way up. So from a young age, that's where I was playing, and I was well used to the position. Obviously, whenever I was in the Tyrone setup, the under 21s especially, that's where I really had a dominant year at midfield, and a year that I felt I made huge strides in terms of progressing my game. So then I pushed on into the senior team, and I think my debut was against Donegal, and it was in full forward. But again, you're just lacking a bit of experience and a bit of just the know-how of the game basically. And I remember that day first touch and things like that weren't the best. But again, that's just all with experience. You get that. But again, last year, whenever we came in, I worked hard on it. Worked hard in terms of being in that position, and just a bit of crafting around there with certain different people. So. That seemed to work, but again, you can't rest on your laurels, because if you do, then you'll just you'll deteriorate, and you'll not progress any further. So it's always about trying to improve and get better, and that's my aim going forward.
How did you improve your shooting? Because I think your shooting went from a good average to again a great average. What was the specific thing that actually helped you get the confidence to take shots on and just to be better at it?
I think it's obviously practice makes perfect, and I know obviously it's easy to say that, but again, you're obviously staying behind in training, maybe getting out before training. You're working with the boys. It's we had Stephen Eoin last year, and he was doing a lot of work with the forwards and things like that. So it definitely, I felt I improved my game in terms of different runs, and just obviously, I think it's all about getting the right technique, and yourself, whenever things going well for you, and next thing you start to notice that the ball's going over the bar instead of maybe falling wide, you've had a bit of confidence, and that's all comes with the form you're in. And last year I obviously was fortunate to have a good spell of form, and along with that came the confidence. And then when you have that equals just what would you say, success? So, in terms of your shooting, in terms of your execution of skills, etc. So I feel it was just all down to just having good confidence and having a good bit of form, and obviously practicing before and after training.
And how big a factor was that in the Tyrone game plan then last year? Because I think we always appreciated how good Tyrone were running the ball, especially over the last 5-6 years. But then I guess yourself and Matty Donnelly, especially inside as a two-man full forward line at times last year, added the scores. I presume that was a very deliberate tactical shift for 2019.
Well, here, listen, you want to try and have as many options as possible in terms of how you can play a game and how you can, like a different game plan or plan A, plan B, etc. So, it's good to have those options. I know, obviously, for the years we had a very, very strong running game, and that was evident. And whenever we were winning Ulsters and all a few years ago, but again, you're always trying to adapt, and you're always trying to add something to your game. So that definitely did add something to our game last year. But it's an option we have going forward. So when we use it, or whatever way we set up, that's obviously the plan, and we go with it. But again, it's good to have plan A and plan B, so that you can fall back in different aspects of play and things like that. So it definitely did help us last year. But again, you always seek to try and improve and go better, because if you don't, then it's not good to you, if you get me.
When the rain was pelting down in Eden Dork with gale force conditions on Sunday, did you feel I've made the right decision here? It's good to be back on a GA pitch.
I was loving it. I had my Murphy's snood on and my Murphy's hat, so that was all going good. But no, here, listen, what a day to be back. Credit to Eden Dork Clubhouse. They because us guys started thinking with the weather, we thought that the game could be called off, but we got the word that it was going ahead. So no, here, listen, I was delighted to be back, and no better game to come back in and pick up 2 points and, you know, try and now build going forward for the rest of the league.
Carl, it sounds to me like you're actually going to really enjoy the added pressure and responsibility of being somebody who was an all-star full forward last year, who did have this off-season storyline, who's now back in the team, that there's a leadership role for you within that you're ready for.
Definitely, it's all about maybe stepping up, and obviously the older you get, the more experience you get, and you know, guys start to look up to you. But I'm just glad that my future's clear and I know where I'm going, because, as I say, I love playing with Tyrone and representing the people of Tyrone. So going forward now, it's all about trying to go one better than maybe this last few years. Obviously, 2 semi-finals in a row, so you'd obviously be looking to aim high. But again, it's all about just taking one game at a time and trying to progress. And if we do that, we know we can get to a good place. But as I say, it's just about training away now and getting back to the basics. And you know, it's obviously maybe missed a bit of training there, so it's good. It'd be good now to get back in full week training, leading up to the Galway game on the 23rd or 24th, is it?
Yeah. Listen, thanks a million for making the time for us this morning. Great to chat to you, and congratulations on your decision and getting all that sorted out.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon then. All right.
It's Cathal McShane there, giving us some insight into how the whole thing went down. It's pretty interesting.
Very interesting, yeah. Clearly taking a bit of time to kind of consider it all. You can sense that he was quite tempted by the opportunity, but he just loves Tyrone.
Yeah.
He loves GAA. I think that's at
and
the
he's
heart
really
of the
good
decision.
at it now as well. Like, I think if last year had been a kind of, you know, I mean, maybe he wouldn't have the interest wouldn't have come, but certainly like the athleticism and the profile is exactly what you can see working in Aussie rules. But
I think Adelaide, had they come in a year earlier, they would have got him.
That's the thing, yeah. It's like it helps to be one of the best players in the country. Right, first, Stewart Lancaster here on the challenge of managing Leinster's squad and the opportunity that the Six Nations offers to players of the province. Have a look.
Yeah, I mean, Leo's very good at that, to be fair. I mean, you're right. I mean, the challenge for places and the lack of opportunity sometimes, because you've only got a certain number of games in the season, can deliver that. But, you know, we do rotate the team a lot. We do rotate to give people chances, not necessarily just on form. So sometimes, you know, the argument could be, well, he played brilliantly this week, therefore he plays again next week. But actually, there's another good player who needs an opportunity. So I can't think of many times in the season where we pick the same 15 on a weekly basis. And part of the reason for that is to create opportunity to give people chances to play. If they don't play for us, then obviously what we try and do is filter them back to the clubs. Ireland 20s are obviously on at the moment as well. So there's a lot of Leinster players who aren't playing for Leinster who have been in and around, you know, either international age grade rugby or clubs.
And of course as well, one of the, I suppose, good things and bad things being involved in Leinster is so many of your players are involved in the Six Nations. So you lose them, and then if they come back and things go well, it might go well for you. And if they don't go so well, you're probably thinking, oh, I need to do a bit of nurturing here now. But so far, so good. So far, so good, yeah. And the good thing is being in Leinster and being in Dublin is that the players drift back occasionally. You know, they've got a down week this week, and we've got lads who've been released, so you can catch up with them and just touch base and stay connected. You know, that's the key thing. No, I mean, the more positive the Ireland environment, the more positive Ireland play, it definitely has a bounce-on effect to Leinster. As I said, you know, when Ireland won the Grand Slam in 2018, you could see the bounce back, you know, coming into Leinster squad into that European Cup campaign that we...
Yeah, that all makes sense. Stuart Lancaster there. Yesterday's press. Tom Malone is here. Tom, how are you?
Hi, Jerry. You on?
Yeah, we're. Are we waiting? Are we still waiting?
Yeah, no. Those weights will be announced. So the Grand National weights will be announced around noon today. So
they were revealed yesterday, but they're announced today. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, they're not really revealed. No, there'll be an embargoed press release coming through pretty shortly, I'd imagine, and then we'll have all the numbers. But it's very much a bit of a
explain this for
PR war going on at the moment.
So explain exactly why this matters. So Tiger Roll, two-time back-to-back winner, going for 3 in a row. Red Rum did 3 in a row?
He did 3 in 4 years.
3 in 4 years.
He finished second in the one in the interim, by the way.
That's not bad. So no one's done 3 in a row?
No one's done 3 in a row.
Ever in the history of the biggest race in the world, right? So the Kentucky Derby, the Grand National, that's it.
This is as big as it gets.
Yeah. And
it's also the one time, maybe apart from Cheltenham, that genuine the eyes of the world are on horse racing. Like, it is...
And there's a possibility this horse might not run in the race because they might... mark the weights too high.
Yes.
Is that the right language?
This is probably a problem of the Grand National's own doing, in that sort of for the previous decade or so, the previous handicapper Phil Smith, who's from Liverpool, kind of made a massive deal about this weights publication, and sort of he was attempting to constantly attract as many people as possible. So which makes sense. And so he would so bigger named horses.
He was Don Kinging the whole thing.
Yeah, so he would let them come down a couple of pounds, make sure they get in, want these big connections to run. However, since then, it's now become like £1 million race. So you don't really need to do that because everyone wants to run in it anyway. However, Michael O'Leary and his racing manager brother Eddie O'Leary have been on a pretty spectacular PR war for the last 11 months or so, just saying this horse is not going to run if he's given what he's rated. Basically, the horse won off a rating of 159 last year.
What does that mean?
That means that so it's a numerical rating given, and everything stands for a pound. So say he runs a horse that runs off 150 against him, there's £9 difference in the weights.
And how is that £9 made up?
It literally in weight in the thing.
Carry extra weight.
Yeah, you literally carry extra weight. So at the moment, this morning, the official rating for Tiger Roll is 171.
Right. What's the lowest weight in the race?
Well, so like at 171, he'll carry 11 stone 10. Say something like Annabelle Fly, who has been placed in a couple of Gold Cups and was placed in the race last year, he could end up in around the mid-150s, which would mean a horse who is absolutely top class would be getting a stone in weight from Little Tiger Roll. And that's like the physical...
So they put an extra weight of a stone on
obviously
Tiger
the horse, the jockeys will carry different kind of weights with their lead bags and whatever. So, you know, the jockeys go out with the corresponding weights that are written on the race card. But if Tiger Roll's weight is not compressed, there will be a lot of other connections rubbing their hands with glee at the thoughts of the sheer weight they'll be getting from him. I personally don't think that the horse is a 171 horse. Like, you're talking about 171. Like, genuine Gold Cup winners have been rated less than that. And like this horse, yes, I know he's going for Grand National, but it's a completely different type of race. And even the race in its format and everything about it right now compared to the Red Rum days is different. The fences are softer. I got an intriguing quote from someone close to the horse off the record, and Davy Russell was apparently not that keen to ride the horse in the first Grand National because he's not a great jumper of normal fences.
Right.
But Grand National fences now, thanks to the safety innovations that the course have brought on, have a softer core. So you can get away with just being a bit braver and just flicking through the top of them. And there's just mounds and mounds and mounds of like kind of tree cuttings on the top. And so you can just flick through the top of them. Whereas if you attempt to do that at Cheltenham, you go out in your head. Like, so it's just the difference. And obviously, like, the way the race is now, it's crucial. Safety is crucial, which is a good thing and a priority. But lesser jumpers can get away with the Grand National Test now. It's fascinating. Look, I think the horse will run. I think, like, Aintree want this to happen. Aintree are in a massive... PR salvo at the moment as well. There is pressure from animal rights groups on the race. It is, you know, and they had one fatality last year, which is terrible, but the overall rate in the race is much better than it has been in the past. They have they're the first race course to have a female clerk of the course in Select Varma, so it's a huge year for her as well. Like I said, it's massive for horse racing. It's essential that this horse runs in this race, as far as I'm concerned.
So will they give him a lower weight?
I think they'll take about £4 or £5 off him just to get him in. If you give him 165 and they don't compress anything below him too much, that might be enough.
That's a very successful PR campaign for Mr. O'Leary then.
It is, it's a massively. But I think that sometime in the middle of, say, the flat season, there'll be a press release buried and they might kind of abandon this sort of weights thing and just say, you know, because Tiger Roll, if he goes and wins the Grand National, will be retired on the spot.
Yeah.
And he will just be an all-time great, and he will have a future parading around
already
every horse
an
show.
all-time great with like back-to-back. He's already an all-time great, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And because of the way that the race is run and because of the quality of the race now and the money on, like, it's just so difficult to retain a crown in this way. And kind of the way he came to, you know, prominence and the way he came to like winning Grand Nationals is kind of, it's not the most obvious way. Like, he's gone and won across country at Cheltenham and gone and done it. So after having very, very limited success in the normal sphere of chasing. So, like I said, people are like, oh, Tiger Roll's such a good horse. Why isn't he running the Gold Cup? And it's like, he'd have no chance in the Gold Cup. He probably has the engine, but he doesn't have just the all the ingredients required that a Gold Cup has, whereas a Grand National, you can just get away with a little bit. You can hunt around down the back. You can get a breather in here. You can flick through a few of the tops of one or two of the fences. Obviously, the likes of Beecher's Brook and the Chair and things like that, you can't. But
yeah,
I just hope everyone kind of does the right thing here, which is not necessarily the right thing to do, but it is the right thing. In this
it totally is for the race and for the world. It is.
Yeah,
put him in.
Put him in, and of course you can see him in the flesh. His last run in Ireland will be next Sunday in Navan at the Boyne Hurdle. So this is out, and then it's all systems go. Next Sunday at Navan, Boyne Hurdle, on to Cheltenham. By the way, this is another side of it. He'll become a 5-time Cheltenham winner if he goes and wins the cross country in a month's time as well.
So he'll do the cross country in a
that's his prep for the Grand National.
Yeah, very good.
It's unreal.
Right, where are we going?
So our football, Mick McCarthy has said there's little chance of him playing both Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty in the same side again with next month's Euro 2020 playoff against Slovakia approaching. Coleman has found himself being rotated in and out of the Everton side, while Matt Doherty continues to be a key player at Wolves. Well, McCarthy says playing both players down the right-hand side didn't work away to Gibraltar, so he's unlikely to try it again. McCarthy has also confirmed that Tottenham teenage striker Troy Parrott will not be involved as he hasn't gone out on loan for game time.
Well, listen, I'm not going to cut across Jose Mourinho, but he's going to get his games where? At Tottenham? Yeah, he has got. He's just turned 18. Yeah, he's got loads of time to get his games, but not to play in Slovakia. He hasn't. So you're asking me two different questions here, really. So if he wants to be in the squad with me, and for the European Championships, when we qualify, then he has to play. He has to be playing serious football, which I'm talking about in a league. Even whether it's the first division at competitive level, championship. If we're just talking about his career, he's got loads of time to play. He's 18. He might play till he's 38. He might have a 20-year career. He might play 700 games. But I get asked in relation to playing for Ireland in the next 2 months, and then in July. And that's a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, Mick McCarthy there on Troy Parrott. Meanwhile, tonight, Leeds United need to get their promotion pushed back on track. Later, Marcelo Bielsa's side have lost the last 2 games ahead of their trip to fellow promotion hopefuls Brentford, And fresh from beating Leeds, Nottingham Forest welcome Charlton to the City ground. Manager Sabri Lamouchi wants his players to believe that they can take the opportunity to reach the Premier League.
I can understand the exciting from outside. From inside, I just want from my players. They are working hard. They just need to believe. Why not them? So do your job. Think about every single details. After that, we will see.
Meanwhile, Birmingham could make it 3 wins from 3 with a win away to Barnsley. Elsewhere, Blackburn entertain Hull, QPR go to Swansea and struggling Wigan host Middlesbrough. In rugby, Leinster's Caelan Doris and Ulster's Will Addison are set to be part of the Irish rugby training camp in Cork this week. Doris suffered a head injury early on the win over Scotland. Ireland, of course, play England in Six Nations on Sunday weekend. 13 players were let back to the provinces yesterday. Well, quickly in Formula One, former world champion Jenson Button expects Lewis Hamilton to agree a new deal with Mercedes. The British driver is out of contract at the end of the season and has been linked with a move to Ferrari. But Button says he thinks the rumours are just a negotiating tactic.
I think they'll come up with a deal pretty easily. They both want the same thing. They're winning championships together, multiple years. So I don't think it's too much of a talking point. They might try and make it to be one, and Lewis might try and get the upper hand.
Meanwhile, just a quick word on Punchestown. Their second inspection they have called as a light dusting of snow on the track. So there's another inspection there at 10 o'clock. Their first race scheduled off at 1:20. All
right, good stuff, Son. Thanks for that. Now, a couple of weeks back, we launched our brand new American football newsletter. It's OTB Club Gridiron. Content from the Snap, our weekly show, podcast fixtures, results, snapshot vignettes, reports from games, stats and facts, early bird tickets to events, as well as both long and short form video content around all things gridiron and now hitting mailboxes all around Ireland. You can subscribe at offtheball.com/Club Gridiron and enjoy all that OTB Club Gridiron has to offer. We're going to be back talking the greatest rugby partnerships straight after Keith Wood pays tribute to Conor Murray's performance the weekend.
The front five played really well. The pack played really well. And I do think it made it an awful lot easier for Conor Murray. So Conor was running onto it and running onto the ball. I thought he had his best game he's had in over 12 months. He looked in control. He looked very well. And there were always people as an option for him. That's very hard when you're digging for a ball to say that you have an option, because everything stops. Everybody has to readjust. There seem to be a lot of moving parts, but because Ireland were getting over the gain line. And what happens when we don't get over the gain line? So that's where the hyperbole maybe that Conway was talking about earlier on comes in.
Yeah, there's no doubt Murray's game had to be, in part, a touch of collateral damage.
OTB
AM. Brought to you by Pandora. Show her that you know her.
So, 8:53 this morning. Throughout all of Valentine's week here on OTB AM, we are talking through the best sporting partnerships. It's all with thanks to Pandora. This morning we're looking at the greatest rugby partnerships, and we're also looking at these 3 gifts from Pandora. Our first one here is this one here. It is the Pandora Moments Pave Heart Clasp Snake Chain Slider Bracelet. A heart is the ultimate symbol to express love, Eoin, for life, for another, or to symbolise self-love. Let love guide your Pandora charm collection displayed in the Pandora Moments Pave Heart Clasp Snake Chain Slider Bracelet. Hand finished in sterling silver and set with 174 pave cut round, brilliant cut clear cubic zirconia, covering both the heart and the ends of the chain to add a little sparkle to your day and your wrist. So that's the top bit of it there. And there's also what they call explosion of love. Capture the intense feelings of love and passion with this textural sterling silver charm set with faceted heart-shaped cubic zirconia in romantic red and pink hues. Overall cost €164. Cheap at the great value at the price.
Looks good. I see that. I'll raise you one Pandora Reflections Shine bracelet, the gold version. So,
ooh, you get the gold, do you?
Yeah, look at this. Reflecting modern femininity, the clean, fluid lines of the new Pandora Reflections bracelet lets you express how it feels to be you. Crafted in Pandora Shine, 18K gold-plated unique metal blend. It is perfect for wearing alone or with the corresponding clip charms. We'll get to those in just a moment, because there are, of course, 1 centimetre additions to tight wrist measurements to pick the perfect size. Now onto those clip charms. The heart dangle clip charm, you can see it in the bottom right over your picture there. Release the radiance of your Pandora Reflections bracelet with this beautiful and sophisticated clip charm in sterling silver. Its dangling heart adds playful movement to your styling. It's a fantastic gift there as well.
Number 3 is the beaded pave band ring, part of the Purely Pandora collection. This ring gives the illusion of stacking a trio of rings with 2 rows of sterling silver beads encasing 68 pave set round brilliant clear-cut cubic zirconia. Created as a statement piece, it'll take centre stage in your hand when wearing with other rings and reminds you to always shine bright. This is a design that inspires us to be bold in your choices. So, show her that you know her by going to Pandora and getting your Valentine's sorted out this week.
Absolutely.
There's only like 3 days left.
Oh my God. We're, of course, doing our best sports partnerships all week.
Yeah.
In association with Pandora. On to rugby
yesterday
today.
I won. Yesterday I won.
You
did. I did. Come on. It wasn't even close.
It's like changing the rules of... It's like waiting for someone to go rock, paper, scissors, and you see that they've done paper, and then you go to scissors.
Mind blown.
It's... I don't think anybody really kind of won from your particular argument yesterday.
I won.
Today, rugby, best sports partnerships in rugby. And I think you're throwing a curveball to us again today, but I'm going to start. And I honestly think that when it comes to Irish sports partnerships, let alone rugby sports partnerships, Jonathan Sexton and Ronan O'Gara is actually kind of amazing. When you think about the curve that they've been on, the enmity that was shown and evident between them, from the Munster versus Leinster days to the out half versus out half in the Ireland days as well, and then this.
They wouldn't
French
share a room.
Sojourn. Yeah, well, exactly. This French part of their careers where Ronan O'Gara and Jonathan Sexton combine minds to actually help us realise where this rivalry that existed between them all came from a deep-rooted appreciation of one another. Now, we've got Ronan O'Gara talking about Sexton in the past quite a bit. We also have Sexton talking about Ronan O'Gara. Have a listen to this.
What I learned so much from that campaign.
Did you?
Yeah. I needed to be more focused on myself for that World Cup. I was always looking over my shoulder, rather than just thinking about myself, getting myself right, getting my own performance right. I was half looking at him, saying how he was playing. And
sure, it was hard because there was like Rog cam every time you kicked.
Yeah, it was tough. It was, and again, what you learn from that. Myself and Dave got together after that World Cup, and I said it to him. I said there was a couple of kicks where I'm lining up and behind the posts, like Rog is there, and he said next time that happens in a game, I said, I want you to have him as your target. And he just put the ball right between his eyes. And it was a great sort of visualisation thing for me.
So a bit surreal, though, that period with the rivalry. Like it
was crazy, yeah. Like I hated, part of me hated playing for Ireland because you feel like half the country are against you, and you're playing for Ireland, you're doing something that you dreamt of since you were a kid, and you think that when you play for Ireland, you know, you're going to have the full support of the country and all that. But that's wishful thinking, you know what I mean? And people weren't making it
pleasant.
You know, yeah. Well, no, there was a lot of criticism. There was a lot of
scrutiny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And obviously, because Roger was such a great servant to Irish rugby and so many games before me, so it made it difficult.
The one thing that I find very interesting about these two characters in Irish rugby is that for a large part of their international careers, they were actually kind of untouched in the number 10 jersey. There was no one who was really like, there's a real threat to the jersey here. Obviously, Sexton becomes that guy for Ronan O'Gara. But when Sexton gets that jersey, who is the guy that's genuinely been challenging Sexton? Of course, we've had the Joey Carberry idea floated out there, but there's never actually been any real suggestion that this jersey could be taken away from him, which is, I guess, testament to the level with which these guys are actually at, that they're like, they can self-motivate, they don't actually need somebody right up behind them. Now, maybe privately Joey Carberry is doing that and it actually is motivating Johnny Sexton. Time will tell if that's actually going to have any...
I mean, there's the parallels between Sexton and O'Gara and Sexton and Carberry down to the when they're playing for their provinces, there's a physical incident between them.
But here's the thing, like, of course there is going to be a passing of the torch eventually because careers end, and I don't want that to be mistaken for there to have been a genuine rivalry during the peak of Sexton's career. Now, I know he's coming off, we're only like, whatever, 15 months out of him picking up the World Player of the Year award, so he's still very, very close. We're just coming off his peak. But maybe it will come to that. Like, you look at the great Leinster-Munster games. What year was it when Sexton screamed down in Roger's face? That was 2009. So
that's the 2009 semi-final.
Yeah. Like, we've obviously had a little bit of a semblance of that with...
It looks worse than it is. No, it doesn't.
With Sexton
and... It's as bad as it looks.
Like Sexton and Carberry in Christmas 2018 is obviously the closest thing we've got to that so far. So more of that, when Carberry's back from injury, screaming Sexton's face, and we might have a Sexton-Rog rivalry.
Yeah, good effort, Eoin, but unsuccessful today. Today's winning partnership is one of the stories of unrequited love, one of the great love stories, like William Butler Yeats and Maud Gonne, or Cyrano de Bergerac and Roxanne, or Milhouse and Lisa, or Adele and that guy who screwed around. Today, I'm talking, of course, about Ireland and the World Cup semi. If only we could get a semi, we'd be happy. We wanted to be one of the great love stories, us in World Cup finals, us in quarter-final wins, but instead, it's become a bit obsessive and stalkerish. First, it was 1987, we were just happy to be there, and The Rose of Tralee was our national anthem. Not great. Then 1991 was actually the very closest that we've ever got, when in Dublin, Gordon Hamilton went over in the corner, only for Rob Saunders to kick the ball back to the best back three in the world. That was as close as we've ever got in our entire history. Ralph Keyes head in his hands there as Michael Lynagh goes over in the corner, breaking Irish hearts. The eerie silence of Lansdowne Road, the silence that suggests that we truly understand the love that we're losing here. 1995, I can't even remember what happened there. 1999, Lons, and what we thought was at the time the lowest ebb, as Argentina, who the hell are they, beat us and didn't actually... I don't think we made it. It wasn't even a quarter-final. It was to get into it. It was a quarter-final playoff, I think. 2003, France didn't even laugh at us as they swept us aside imperiously. They didn't like. They're like, who are you people? What are these pygmies we're forced to play this game against? 2007, didn't even get out of the group. Disaster. 2011, the second closest we've ever got. Only because we had Wales and we choked. Imagine that Welsh team. Oh, look at that. Mike Phillips. And the Permatan. I don't even know if that's fake. I think that's just his, he's just blessed with good genes. He's tanned even in the darkest days of the dark valleys of Wales. That was the second closest we've ever got. 2015, the injury bug that we blame everything on. The injuries hit us, a bit of suspension. But actually, our defence against Argentina was rubbish. They just carved us apart. I mean, surely we should have known that this is what Argentina... They're going to go wide. Oh, watch the wide channels, lads. No, we didn't. And then 2019... Turning Japanese. Look up what that song was about. Very appropriate. So as I said, creepy and stalkerish and a bit needy, but hopefully someday the semi-finals and finals will take sympathy on us and give us whatever it is that lovers who give sympathy to people.
Like, do you think that
the greatest partnership that never was, the unrequited love? There are many forms of love, I say, Eoin, in this week of love.
God, I don't know. Are they more interested in semi-final or are they more interested in final? Like, it's unrequited love of two different beings here. Like, is Ireland potentially using semi-final to get to final here? Because that could break semi-final's heart.
I would be happy to be the one who is doing the breaking of hearts, as opposed to... Better to be the breaker of hearts than the heartbroken.
Well, unless you have an actual soul and feel a bit of sympathy for other human beings, then I would actually rather be in Ireland's position. You know, you can have sympathy bestowed upon you. And I wonder, is the constant heartbreak the reason why the Irish rugby team is so beloved around the country? That we feel sorry for the hopeless romantic that is the Irish rugby team, because whenever it matters, they actually just can't seal the deal.
Well, if you want to seal the deal this week, make sure that you get along to Pandora, who are sponsoring OTB AM all this week. Show her that you know her and find the perfect gift this Valentine's Day with Pandora. Pandora.net for the stuff, and hashtag Pandora Valentines. We're going to be back with MMA fighter Rhys McKee, who's competing for the Cage Warriors welterweight title, straight after these.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Pandora. Celebrate love with a special gift.
The OTB Brief. Everything you need to know about sport every morning. Need to get on top of the day's sports news? Well, the OTB Brief is the only sports update you'll need every morning. With all the breaking stories, post-match reaction.
They had one more day to rest. We were really in trouble to build the team.
And the best bits from off the ball, all in a 10-minute podcast.
Oh, sweaty palms. Of course, you guys know what it's like, but that was nervy, yeah.
The OTB Brief, online every morning from 7 a.m. on offtheball.com, the Go Loud app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Pandora. Find the perfect gift this Valentine's Day.
Rhys McKee will be competing for the Cage Warriors welterweight title at Cage Warriors Belfast, which takes place at the SSE Arena on the 16th of May. A win there will leave the Antrim fighter top of the list of European prospects hoping to land a UFC contract. For early bird tickets, visit cagewarriors.com. Rhys joined Eoin in studio yesterday. Have a look.
This is it. This is the moment of your career, really. It's when you think about all the hours of effort you put into the gym, like, this is where it all comes to culminate, I'd imagine. And like, without putting too much of a pressure on one half an hour max period of your life, this is what it's all been for.
This is it, as I was saying to my girlfriend, I said, if this is the biggest night in my career, then, I'll be very happy with that too. As much as a UFC debut will be spectacular, a world title in Belfast, headline spot, in an arena that I grew up wanting to perform in, even perform on the card. Now the headline, it's really, as cliche as it sounds, it's like what dreams are made of, so it's a night that I'm going to take super serious, and my preparation's going to speak volumes about that. We
mentioned the gym at the top there. It's the Next Generation gym in Belfast. Talk to us a little bit about that, because we often have fighters coming in who kind of told us about the inner workings of, say, Straight Blast Gym. What's Next Generation like?
It's a family. It's exactly what it is. I walked in there at 16, 55 kilo, I think I walked in there. Rodney Moore took me under his wing, and to be honest, I haven't looked back. I went in there as a hobby for football, and I've just stuck there now, and it's a breeding ground of success. The fighters that gym has put out, like Norman Park to the UFC, with Bellator fighters, Cage Warrior fighters, it's amazing, and it's a massive part of my life.
What age were you when you walked in there?
16.
16, right, okay.
16, so 24 now, so I've been there 8 years, and it doesn't feel like 8 years, though. It just feels like I walked in there 2 months ago. It's just been an absolute fast track, but what a place.
So football was your sport up until the age of 16?
Well, I definitely tried to play football. I wouldn't say it was my sport, but I think I found my hand at MMA more than I ever did at football.
Why?
I found myself on the sub bench a lot in football, to be honest. A lot of complaining I done more than anything, but it was good. It was good. It filled a gap in my life, and it made me fit and got me. I think it helped me a lot in my MMA journey as well. I learned a lot from football too.
Coming to it relatively late, I think it's fair to say, at the age of 16, does that almost help your sense of humility about learning the craft that it is, this endless quest to try and perfect mixed martial arts?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. There's there's always more to know than you already know, if that makes sense. So it's a constant journey, always striving for better and 1% better, and it's an amazing journey to be on, and good things are coming, and good things have came.
What's the biggest challenge you've had on that journey in terms of what you've learned?
I've had a lot of journeys. You know, I actually fought in Belfast before. I fought in Belfast a few years ago and fell ill the day of the fight and decided I thought I'd be Rocky and try and fight through it, and I got beaten in Belfast in front of my home crowd. So I think that was a big learning curve. It's like not to be a people pleaser and do it all for yourself, or like and do it all for the people. You have to remember you're doing it for yourself as well, and you know, don't be a man of the people.
When you're feeling ill on that day, is it just a bizarre sickness that you could have done nothing about?
I had like a stomach infection. I ended up in hospital getting IVs, but I decided it'd be a good idea to fight. You know, I sold a lot of tickets, and just really, I should have made the right decision and pulled out and forgot about the show, but I didn't. I turned up, but it was a massive learning curve, and I overturned that loss anyway. So
I'd imagine so. I'd imagine going through that in the cage is hell when you've got that sort of infection in your stomach.
You know what it is though, a lot of people like use these fights and like you feel like you're invincible on fight day, like you can't wake up and feel bad or you can't wake up and feel on top of the world, but you can. And I thought it's impossible to be sick on fight day or to have a toothache or a headache, whatever these may things be, but I was sick on fight day and it was very humbling. You know, you remember the word goes on even if you're fighting or not, so I should have pulled out, but we learned a lot.
Absolutely. That's very interesting because when you talk about the juxtaposition between, say, weigh-in day and fight day, people go from feeling like hell, and you genuinely believe that even whatever it is, 24, 48 hours later, you can feel on top of the world again, despite going through that hellish experience.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like, I've had a lot of fights now, and, you know, by that one day, I've always felt on top of the world on fight day, and, you know, as hard as the cuts are, and as important as they are a massive part, it's, you know, you do, maybe we trick ourselves to an element of feeling on top of the world, you know, rather than more mentally than physically, but you have to be in that mindset and do your fight.
You have to look yourself in the mirror almost and say, this is the day where I'm putting my body on the line in a cage. I have to at least believe that I feel good about it.
Absolutely. You know, I wouldn't say it's a case of fake it till you make it, so to speak, but, you know, you believe it. Like, you went through the last 10, 12 weeks of constant preparation for this one moment. So walking out there and saying anything less than I'm going to destroy this man is, you know, it wouldn't really make sense for me. So I will
put yourself in a very vulnerable position if you didn't have that mindset, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. You probably wouldn't make that walk. I know I wouldn't. Every fight I walk out, I know what's coming. You know, I know I'm going to win. So
that's very interesting because you're not necessarily known as somebody who's a trash talker who, like, everybody has to have an air of confidence, but there is a huge degree of difference between somebody who is out there slagging off their opponent and the person who is very quietly confident in their own beliefs or in their own standard of fighting.
Yeah, they always say be wary of the quiet ones, don't they? So, you know, I'm confident enough to tell my opponent that I believe I'm going to win. If they want to talk about trash, I'll talk it back, but everything's authentic. I can't do anything that's not real. You know, I'm not one of these guys, like, I've seen people texting people before the fight and saying, let's sell this fight. It's not me. I'll say it if I feel it, and that's how it is. You know, I'm supremely confident in my own abilities. I know what I can do. I know where I'll be, and that's enough. You know, I let the fight and do the talking.
Has there ever been pressure on you to talk more trash?
No. You know, I can see why people do it. I understand the game. You know, like sell the fight, like get the people. But people are interested. Like if I say, for that last fight I said I was going to be a first round finish, and I went out and done that, that's, for me, that's more exciting. That's backing it up, you know. And same for this fight, I can say I'm going to go out and do this and make a prediction. Doing it is my trash talk, you know. Backing it up and just saying, listen, I told you so. So then people get them intrigued in the next one. There's
almost more of a niche for people who are quiet and who are quietly predicting their own outcomes and successfully executing that.
Absolutely, there is. Listen, there's a huge market for the talker. Like we've seen McGregor do it so much. So I understand why people follow the blueprint, but it's not my blueprint.
Would you stay the same Rhys McKee then if you made it to the UFC? When you make it to the UFC, I'd imagine is what you're thinking.
100%. I'm just living a real journey. This is all authentic. You know, I'm not here acting different. If we were to talk half an hour after the show, I'd be the exact same guy. I don't have the energy to do anything non-authentic. All my energy is just created being real and just living my best life, which is MMA. We mentioned the weight cuts a moment ago. So you come into cage fighting at 155? Yeah, I started my professional career at 155. I started as low as flyweight 125. So I've had a massive weight journey.
Yeah, we had Niall McGrath over. Where was that? Was that in Belfast or was that in the UK?
That was in London.
He
was over for the Terry Brazier fight.
Right, okay. And I think he was with you during weight cut, which I think we've got a bit of footage to actually play from that. And you can kind of talk us through these pictures here. So you're fighting at 155 at this point?
Yeah. That was the night before I was cutting the weight. A grueling process. This here is designed to get all the water off your body. You'll see my back here as I lean forward. It's crazy, but it's a massive part of the sport, and that was really what made me move up weight class. So I now fight at a heavier weight group, thankfully, looking at these pictures.
Was that one of the reasons why? Was it like one of these particular weight cuts that you just said, right, I've had enough of this?
The scary thing, that was a good one. That was a really good weight cut. That was a pleasant one. I had a few hairy ones after that. Health reasons and stuff. It's really not good on the body, and like we talked about earlier, feeling on top of the world on fight day, I realised that I maybe wasn't feeling on top of the world. Although I said I had heavy legs in the warm-up, really lethargic, couldn't recover just as well as I would like to. So here I am at 170, and it's been a brand new lease of life. Like, I've never felt as good, as cliche as that sounds as well, but this is the weight class for me. I'm walking about heavier now, and I just feel amazing. All my training sessions, I'm improving. I'm not just going there. Like, when I was fighting at 155, I honestly didn't want to go to the gym.
Right.
And that's the truth. Like, you were going through the motions the last 3 weeks before a fight.
Yeah.
And it's a tough mindset to be in.
But like not wanting to go to the gym, and is that happening 3 weeks before a fight, not wanting to get out there?
Minimum 3.
Right.
And it's just due to a calorie deficit. You're barely eating many carbs. Like, I cut a lot of weight to make 155, so things had to change.
So sorry, you were obviously cutting out carbs weeks and weeks in advance of the fight. It's not just week of the fight cutting down a few pounds here or there. You were.
I think the last fight we had to tweak carbs 4 weeks out.
Right.
Which is not good. Like, it's something like, I don't know, I played the game, It's, you make that weight, you sign that contract, you're making the weight, and you'll do anything you can to make it. So, but listen, I had these I had great wins doing that, so it's something that I'm still, I don't regret doing it. But I've learned a lot from it, and here I am. I think 170, I've said it before, this is my pre-UFC run, and the weight's been a massive help.
Yeah, I'd say so. Are you the type of person that when you cut carbs out of your diet for 4 weeks, you just go into complete grumpy mode and that just affects everything?
Absolutely. Even my home life, like, I was getting home from the gym at 8 p.m, and like Rebecca, the girlfriend, wanted to watch TV. I said, no way, we're going straight to bed. 8:30 p.m, I wanted to be in bed sleeping, and not due to tiredness, just lethargic all the time, no energy. Just didn't want to do anything. Wasn't a people person, so things had to change.
How close to the 170 will you be come May?
Oh, like, I still have a substantial cut. Like, at the minute, I think I'm 192.
Right, okay.
But so it shows you kind of, when I was fighting at 155, I walked at 185. Which is crazy, but now I'm walking about 192, so I still have a substantial cut, but it'll be nowhere near what it was. I was cutting 8 kilo overnight.
So were you 192 walking about, even trying to fight at 155?
No, I couldn't let myself go that. 185, 186, but that was like holding myself back. You know what I mean? So, like, even walking at 185, there was a diet in place. There was like holding back. I'm not saying eat rubbish, but like I couldn't enjoy myself as much.
You want to have a proper downtime, whereas like in your between camp phases, I'd imagine you're still kind of counting those calories.
Yeah, exactly. So there was no switch off. It was always on, constant. The diet was always on, and I understand we're living the life, but there has to be, a recover. Even to recover after some of my hardest fights, I was still trying to watch what I was eating.
Right. That's just bad recovery, I'd imagine, is it?
You know what I mean? The body needs to breathe sometimes, and I wasn't letting it.
So what happens now? Obviously, May 16th in the SSE arena. Do you wait till you find out an opponent? Are you in semi-camp now? Are you in camp now? Or what's the situation?
Like in our gym, like Rodney's raised in that gym is not using the word camp.
Okay.
But like the camp's a good word for the 8-week process. But I'm always on year round. I believe now I could fight in 2 or 3 weeks.
What happens next when, and I use that word when because you've instilled me with confidence as well as yourself this morning, when you win this title in May in Belfast, is it then the UFC that comes calling? Is that where you want to go? Is that where you want to be by the end of this year?
At 100%. By the end of this year, anything short of that will be a massive failure in my year.
Right.
This year is UFC year for me. Whether that's after May or I know they're coming to Belfast in September. So I have these two fights here to make it happen. I have 10 wins, 10 finishes. I can't see how it wouldn't be after May with another finish. If not, it will definitely be after September. That'll be the send-off. But I'm preparing for May to be my last fight in the yellow gloves.
Would you fight at 165 pounds if that was brought in the UFC?
Yeah, I would. I would, yeah.
We leave that there. We leave the 160. We'll have the UFC conversation once you're in the UFC about the 165.
If the 165 happened in Cage Warriors, I would probably do it.
There you go.
I would, but as for now, I like official weight classes. I hate catch weights. I want to be chasing titles, and until there's titles in them catch weights, I'm not really into it.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Well, it didn't work. Okay. It didn't. And the shape of the team didn't work either. 4-4-2. We had two strikers on, and we had less attempts at goal than we've had. 4-3-3 is not necessarily two wide players. We've played that way and had more chances. It didn't work. It's not what I've looked at. But as I said, I'll consider all my options for Slovakia. Of course I will.
With that in mind, with Robbie Brady, who seems to be on the fringes at the moment, so is he a concern in his club situation? Because he's obviously... You know it's a concern. You know the answer to that question, because I've said that all along. That if players aren't playing, and Robbie comes certainly under that bracket at the moment, he's not played for a long time, and he gets bit part of football, and of course that was the same in November, and we're now in February, and he's still not playing. So. It makes it difficult for him.
Yeah, okay. Mick McCarthy there talking yesterday at Elvery's Intersport announcement of them sponsoring FAI grassroots football, summer schools.
Yeah.
That was it, yeah. Right, Phil, how are you?
How are you doing?
I don't know how much sense this makes, right? The takeaway from the game in Gibraltar was that the wind was so bad that we couldn't read anything into it. But we're never going back to another experiment to see if it's possible to put two right-sided players in the same team on the right side of our team.
Yeah, what Mick said there obviously was that played 4-4-2 that day, so he's obviously gone to 4-3-3, which essentially turns out to be a 4-5-1. And Alan Brown has played on the right-hand side of that. So there is a case to put Matt Doherty there and not having to choose one or the other, because if he's choosing Coleman or Doherty, he's going to pick Coleman every day. And you know, he almost planted the seed after the Denmark game, which Matt Doherty scores from. You know, he scores a header to equalise, and in the press conference and also in his TV interviews after that game, he talked about how I forgot to congratulate Matt Doherty on his goal because I was too busy given out to him for his part in the Denmark goal, how he let his man go. So it was almost like the takeaway that night was, okay, so Mick wasn't happy with Matt Doherty defensively there. So straight away I knew coming away from that, if Seamus Coleman is fit, he's starting in Bratislava as the right back.
Why did he go 4-4-2 that day against Gibraltar? I'd actually totally forgotten it was 4-4-2.
It's his first game. See, this is the problem with Mick McCarthy coming in. He's had no preparation. He literally, his first game was a qualifier. Pressure's on you straight away. And I know people say it's only Gibraltar, but it was a horrible game. Horrible surface, poxy day, just everything around that game.
So you wouldn't read too much into it?
But like, why not go 3-5-2? If you wanted to actually get the best out of this.
I think 3-5-2 is the perfect formation for this Ireland team, because then you have Enda Stevens and Matt Doherty as your wing backs, and Seamus Coleman can play as one of the three.
Yeah, alongside...
Yeah, we saw when Chelsea won the league under Conte, Azpilicueta was so effective because you have that recovery pace of a fullback who is used to sweeping up after two centre-halves. It works very well.
Is that not the case? Is that not how we get like five of our best players into the team, where it's left to right, it's Stevens, it's Egan, it's Duffy, it's Coleman, it's Doherty?
Yeah,
like, can we not trust Seamus Coleman to actually play on the right, or could we not trust him to play on the right of a three against Gibraltar? Like this, I actually had forgotten that it was a 4-4-2 that they attempted that night.
Yeah, but at the time of that game, you're looking at someone like John Egan and Enda Stevens. They hadn't hit the heights they have now.
No.
That Gibraltar game was March 2019.
19, yeah.
So I'd say they're playing very well in the championship.
Yeah,
right.
They're playing quite well in the championship.
Now, you know, Mick puts a lot of store on people who are playing games. apparently.
Playing games, yeah, absolutely.
At whatever level.
Whatever level, yeah.
Is Fleetwood Town a good enough level to get you into the team at the moment?
Glenn Whelan is who you're referring to there. He gets his game because he's been one of our better players. That's why he's going to get his game in Bratislava.
So he's ahead of Robbie Brady because he's playing for Fleetwood.
Yeah, but Robbie Brady's not playing any football.
They're at Wickham tonight, by the way, for anybody wanting to watch a bit of Glenn Whelan. Playing for Millwall is something that should be getting you in contention for playing for Ireland, and this idea that a Fleetwood Town player should be good enough to try and qualify us for Euro 2020 is actually kind of ridiculous, regardless of how good he's been last year. I agree he should be in the squad, but surely Jason Malumbi is in a better position than Glenn Whelan to get into the Ireland team.
Not now.
See, you can't just say, right, Jason, you've been playing brilliant, which he has for Millwall, and then just throw him in Bratislava, see how you go.
I suppose there's definitely truth in that, in fairness. It just does seem a little bit ludicrous that this is the situation we're in.
And I know I can understand the frustration that Ireland supporters have at the moment because we've got so many talented young players, but we're just going to have to wait. Now, if Ireland do qualify for the Euros, then maybe between March and June, there's a few friendlies where Mick can try out some of these younger players.
James McCarthy is obviously the ghost midfielder who you would sub straight in for Glenn Whelan. He's playing in the Premier League. He's playing week in, week out. He's first choice now. Obviously, he gets subbed off fairly regularly when they're chasing games. Their run of form since he's gotten the team has been pretty abysmal. So I'm sure these things are not connected. But look, I don't know. I don't see a consistent, coherent logic at work when Mick McCarthy is talking about football over this campaign. I get the point that there were no games, right?
Yeah.
But even the friendlies he's had, he hasn't used to do stuff.
Well, the one thing that has been consistent with Mick McCarthy is his team selection. It pretty much picks itself.
Yeah.
And that's his point.
Irrespective of whether players are actually fulfilling the criteria he says are the criteria for picking them.
He looks at the Denmark game and he thinks that was our best performance. So he's going to pick the same 11 or as close to it as possible. Obviously, Seamus Coleman didn't play that night because of the red card in Geneva, but he will go as close to that as possible. And, you know, even someone like Darren Randolph has been injured a lot. He's got his move to West Ham, played a couple of games, but now he's on the bench. Like, there's going to be certain players that aren't playing as much, so he has to make exceptions. And he's just going to stick with the tried and trusted, because that his MO when he came in was get us to the Euros.
Yeah, but this isn't going to get us to the Euros.
Well, he thinks it will.
But he can't think it's going to.
He thinks that the way we're set up, we don't lose many games. We lost one game in the qualification, that was against Switzerland. He actually tried 3 at the back for the first half an hour of that to mirror the Swiss formation. It didn't work out, so that's his justification for not playing it again. You know, he's got 4 days between when the squad meets up and that game in Bratislava. Not all the squad will be there. So he said, I can't try out 3 at the back, because Stephen Doyle put it to him yesterday about that. You know, he mentioned what we've been just talking about, all these informed players playing as wing backs. Why not do it against Slovakia? And he just said, I can't do it. I don't have enough time to implement it.
So pick your
he doesn't
team.
want to implement it on a training ground. He wants to see it in action on the pitch in a match situation, and he doesn't want to take that risk in Bratislava, because if it goes belly up, he'll get absolutely roasted for it.
Couldn't he have tried it in the friendly against New Zealand?
He could have, but he wanted to look at some players, like Troy Parra played that day, Jack Byrne.
And who are both miles and miles and miles away from his first team. So he essentially wasted that.
But he also needed to rest players.
Well, or did he? Did he really? Like, I'm sure he had an agreement with a bunch of players who came over. So was it Bournemouth or whoever was like, Duffy's not going to play, and then he played, right? So, okay, I get that maybe Duffy doesn't play, but you can begin to build a constellation of, explain to everybody, we're going to do 45 minutes here where we're going 3 at the back. We want as much evidence as we possibly can. Yeah. It's against the New Zealand team who haven't played football in 2.5 years.
Yeah,
so
no, and I get
not
that.
Ideal, but like
if he had just gone with the same 11, or he tried 3 at the back with the same players.
Don't go with same 11, right? Like, be smart about it.
Yeah.
There's a halfway house where you can just do, like, we're going to go 3, just even the 3 centre backs.
The problem then is if you do
two of the centre
a
backs.
mix and match of a team where you have say 6 of your regulars in with 5, is it really a clear indication of how things are going to work out?
Well, at least those 5 feel like they've got a chance to play with some of the first team players and show what they might be capable of doing. Like, there's a coherency about that.
Yeah, no, I just think that Mick has been pretty much adamant since he came in that he can't take risks because he doesn't have time to develop all these young players. That's going to be Stephen Kenny's job. That's why he is the succession plan, and we just have to be patient. I know we have like all these young players and we can't wait to see them play. The important thing for these young players is that we get to see them play club football. So you mentioned Malumpi, like he's actually getting regular game time in the championship. That's what we need. Conor Masterson is now starting to get a run in the QPR team. But Aaron Connolly, for example, left on the bench for Brighton, didn't come on. A game that Brighton really could have done with winning, and he's a striker, and Graham Potter didn't use him.
Yeah.
So
his chances of playing are diminishing.
Well, the pressure is on Brighton at the moment, so you'd imagine, just like with Mick McCarthy, when the pressure is on managers, they revert back to default mode, low risk, go with experience rather than youth.
Yeah, and that's never worked for Mick.
No, and look, I just think
the qualifying campaign where he qualified, he had Roy Keane, Damien Duff, Robbie Keane, Shay Given.
These were an exceptional group of players, though.
Yeah.
Like we would love to have these kind of players. We just don't have them anymore.
What's the team going to be very quickly before we wrap up this morning?
Pretty much, it's going to be your usual
Randolph.
back four. Randolph, Coleman and Stevens as your full-backs. He'll go Duffy and Egan, I think, now at...
Glenn Whelan locked in?
Glenn Whelan, Jeff Hendrick. The other position might be up for grabs.
So it's McLean and Brady, McGoldrick?
No, I don't think Brady starts. So that's where there is a case that you could play Matt Doherty there.
Yeah, but he won't.
And he won't. McGoldrick plays, obviously. I don't know, does he try... He tried Alan Brown on the right before. Does he... We've seen Shane Long play there before.
Is Shane Long going to be in the squad?
I think Shane Long will be back in the squad.
If Shane Long's not in the squad, that's like...
Surely he will be in the squad.
Out.
James McCarthy, I think... I'm not convinced he's going to be in the squad, not because of Mick, but because of James McCarthy himself, who will just say, Mick, it's the first run of games I've had in a long time.
He needs to stay fit.
Yeah, and Palace are in a bit of trouble as well. So
now he's got a contract at Palace that suggests that maybe he'd be okay. You know, one last bit of audio from you. Here he is talking about the prospect of playing in Windsor Park. Here he is.
I would be intimidated or scared going to Windsor Park, to be quite honest. I don't think the players would be. Look, if that's where we end up, because we've beat Slovakia, I'd be delighted. Look, we're in the final then, aren't we? So, but being intimidated, no, I don't think so. If Darren Randolph and the Doc or Seamus and Duffer and John Egan and Enda Stevens and all those boys and Glenn Wheeler get intimidated by going anywhere, then we've got a real problem. I don't think that's the case. But it might be the case if it's kids playing.
And that bit at the end about the kids playing, and that's why Mick will not pick the young lads. Say, for example, we do beat Slovakia and we have to go to Windsor Park for a place at the Euros, and he's throwing in young lads that mightn't be able for it.
Yeah, we're not with kids.
I've got a strange feeling that this generation of Irish kids are just going to come in so blasé when they eventually get their debut, and they will actually have this whole idea that you need to actually learn how to deal with these environments like Windsor Park. What can actually prepare you for that? I don't know.
I get it. Some of the what we've seen with the 21s, they express themselves and they play with such freedom, and it's great to watch. But Windsor Park would be an intimidating atmosphere
for anybody.
Yeah.
Regardless of your age.
Northern Ireland were in a group with Germany and the Netherlands, and at times they had Germany under serious pressure. One thing Michael O'Neill has done since he really turned things around in Northern Ireland is he's made that a really hard place to go.
Yeah, he's made them very good defensively against teams who are much better than them. How they play against us, where they'll have a lot of the ball, I'm not so sure. I mean, that could be the worst 0-0 draw of all time.
Look, a penalty shootout at Windsor Park.
Everybody would be like, we'd beat the pick of them, and be like, you probably would. Maybe we should be maintaining our two separate football teams for as long as possible, because at least that way everybody gets capped. 9:32 this morning, Phil, thanks very much. On the 17th of February, that's Monday, Some of the best football pundits in the country are going to be on hand to talk through the upcoming Champions League second round fixtures. Brian Kerr, Damien Delaney, Keith Andrews and European Cup winning legend Graham Souness are all going to be in attendance at the Alex Hotel in Dublin. It's all with thanks to Virgin Media Sport, which has over 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League and Nations League games, all live this season, with these games being available to all Virgin Media TV customers. Head over to offtheball.com/events to register for tickets. That's it from us, 9:33 this Tuesday morning. Thanks very much for joining us. Off the Ball's back in your radios tonight from 7 o'clock. Irish Rugby captain Ciara Griffin, Rishtard's Rugger Thing, episode 2, Nathan co-hosting with Joe, the football show, and much more as well. You can subscribe to the OTB AM podcast. It'll be longer than 10 minutes today, we promise. Fully timestamped, making it easy to find exactly what you want from this morning's 2-hour show. If you missed anything this morning, with Cathal McShane, Rhys McKee, the best rugby partnerships, and our interview with Andrew Conway, much more besides. Get the podcast. We're also on YouTube. You can catch our show.
Just a bit of
Smart TV.
Bit of breaking news this morning. Tyrone's Conor McKenna has left Essendon and is returning home due to homesickness. So what a week this could be for Mickey Hart. We've obviously had Cathal McShane on this morning chatting about it. So I'm just looking at foxsports.com.au. Essendon defender Conor McKenna heads home to Ireland indefinitely a month before round 1. Fox Footy understands McKenna returned home due to homesickness and family-related reasons. Essendon will continue to support him and remain in contact with the player and his family. So this should be very, very interesting to see what happens. So he's home indefinitely. So
he played about 60 games for Essendon. We were just talking with Cathal McShane about him a little bit earlier on, and he'd had that conversation because he has obviously been so successful. They were teammates on the minor team that were beaten in an All-Ireland final, Cathal McShane said, by Mayo.
Yeah.
This is big news for Tyrone if they can get him back.
Well, we just need to see what the nature of the family-related reasons are. Like, it does say indefinitely, so we don't know. We don't know if it's personal reasons that maybe would preclude him from actually being in a fit state to play. There's a whole range of potential options, but if it is
Keystone Lintels are on the phone to him straight away. Here, listen, you two can be a dynamic duo for us in the sales team and on the pitch as well.
Yeah, so if this does turn out to be a situation where Conor McKenna does become available for Mickey Hart, they
what
are...
kind of they say, so Essendon speedster, obviously fast, I'm guessing.
I was literally just looking at the match report here from the 2013, where it was mostly the All-Ireland semi-final that year. So Conor McKenna in that game played centre forward for that minor team that almost went all the way.
Oh, and what does this do to the power rankings?
Absolutely. Are they the third best team in the country, you would say, if he comes back? But we need to wait and see if that actually happens. Even with the current...
swing a game against Kerry, that All-Ireland semi-final, is it enough? Wow, look how he's changed.
That is... possibly. I still think even with the tools that they have at their disposal, they're going to be quite a force this year. I think they look even a bit better than they did last year. Certain players like McCurry at the weekend was class, but I suppose you kind of want to wait and see how they actually go in the championship.
Just because you can do it on the worst of days in Eden Dork doesn't mean you're going to, when the bright lights come on in Croke Park, you're going to be able to do it. When
how would he get on in a fine Sunday afternoon?
All actually bounces back into your hands on purpose.
Yeah, that it won't suit these Tyrone players, but yeah, so big news this morning. Yeah, so possibly good news for Tyrone fans.
Up to third in the power rankings straight away. Bear in mind that the power rankings were done before we thought Cathal McShane was coming back. So they've added McShane. They're now adding...
I'm going to say yes. Yes, we'll do power rankings tomorrow. And we will factor this news into it.
Immediate breaking power rankings on the back of...
I'm thinking Dublin 1, Kerry 2, Tyrone 3 at this point.
Good stuff. That is your lot from OTB AM this morning. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7:30. Best of luck.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Pandora. Celebrate love with a special gift.